This is the Mountainside Podcast, and returning to the studio for the last episode of the year is my friend Chris Lockhart. This was a great episode, an incredible way to wrap up the year. Chris is an absolute savage. He's a professional mixed martial artist, competing in the highest levels in kickboxing and so much more. But above all that, Chris is an awesome dude to be around. I really enjoyed having him back. This was a great conversation and a great way to close 2024. Thank you all for listening and enjoy the episode. Well, good to see you, brother. We're on. We're live. Here we go. So,
yeah.
Cheers, man.
Yeah, cheers. My monster.
Yeah.
Starbucks. Yeah.
I'm going with some Jocko Hydrate right now.
You guys were talking about Bulletproof on, because I listened to a little bit of BCAM's and Telly's podcast with you guys.
Nice.
And so you guys are with Bulletproof? Is that right on? Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. They are, I don't know. I love that product. So
a couple times before hockey, I would drink like just the gas station Bulletproof ones, and I like.
Oh, I didn't even know they made those.
Bro, like it was.
Better find a restroom quick, huh?
Bro, like it. I skated a full game and then got home and like couldn't sleep still. And I'm really like normally I can drink Starbucks and go right to bed.
Really?
And that kept me up. Big
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
I like their the coffee creamer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's just MTC oil, grass-fed butter.
Oh, sweet.
And it's just a powder, you put it in there. And I don't really drink milk or milk products anymore.
Yeah.
So I like that. It makes me feel like I'm not missing out on like the creamer, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
I just use almond milk or oat milk with everything, and that's it now.
Yeah.
So my girlfriend still drinks like 2% here and there, but like I don't really mess with
Milk is such a weird thing to me. It's just like, it's so foreign, man. Like,
yeah. Used to drink a ton of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't know. Now it's all organic almond milk with like 4 ingredients, and that's it. It's like, because then it was like, oh, well, there's like carrageenan or whatever it's called in there. And then then there was, I forget what one of the other things was. It was like every single 5 seconds, I turned around, there was something else bad in it.
It's crazy. Like a cup of milk has 12 grams of sugar in it.
It's insane.
And your daily intake, I think, or recommended daily intake is no more than 10 grams. So like, a 12-ounce glass of milk, you're fucked. You're over already.
Screwed, yeah. Let alone, like, a lot of people eat fruit and think that there's no cost to that, too. And it's like, that's sugar, Like, I mean, I have that in the morning, and then that's it for the day. And then everything else is, like, very minimal to no sugar the rest of the day. So just stevia nonstop, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Zevias, that's been a go-to for fight camps and for everything, because it's just, I can actually have some sort of sanity,
right,
through it, and actually have like what tastes like, soda or pop or whatever, and not put on a bunch of weight.
God, I drink the shit out of like carbonated water.
Yeah.
And I know that those things probably aren't the best for you, but it's better than like drinking soda, but just to like get that fix at night.
Yeah.
And then my go-to has been, if I'm trying to do no sugar, no carbs, just like strictly carnivore is pretty much what I eat these days.
Is it really? Did you switch completely?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's probably 95%. Like I'll mix some fruit in there. And then I do like to have like some onions every once in a while, or mushrooms, like just to break up the monotony. And then occasional potato here or there, especially sweet potatoes, dude. Like I love sweet potatoes, but yeah, just trying to mainly stick to that. But those, have you ever tried Element Salt?
No, I keep hearing about it though.
Okay, it's awesome. I'll hook you up. I always have some of these on the table.
Right on, yeah.
It's just 1,000 milligrams of salt, and they come in different flavors. So they have like a chocolate flavored. There's some potassium, magnesium in it. But those things, I put them in the NutriBullet.
Oh, yeah.
And blend it up, and it's almost like a sorbet or something, So it feels like, and it's just salt.
It's pretty good, yeah.
It's good shit, man.
I feel like Lex Friedman is like big into these, isn't he? Or I feel like
I don't know. I don't really listen to Lex all that much, but I should listen to him more. Yeah,
yeah.
I think we got some more in here. I'll hook you up. They're not a sponsor or anything, but
no, I appreciate it for sure.
And then these Jocko hydrates here. I'll send you with one of these too.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, thank you.
I'm crushing one of these right now. They're pretty good. It's just like hydration shit, It's like a Gatorade, but with no sugar. God, I think we dropped all of our sponsors right at the beginning of this podcast. Dude, thanks, Chris.
Let's go. Yeah, I mean, it's nice that a lot of these guys are getting on board, and it's crazy. So I was talking to my girlfriend about it the other day. Like the whole RFK thing. And it's crazy that there are people out there that are like, you could say, here, this is healthy, this is not healthy. Pick one.
Right.
And people will intentionally pick the unhealthy one, even if it doesn't matter what, just because they don't like somebody or they've got like a stigma or a bias or something. I don't know. I don't get it, because a lot of what I feel like he's trying to do is get rid of a lot of the, bullshit that's in our food.
Right.
And it's like, I don't see why that could be bad at all. Like, I don't understand how.
No, I don't know why people would have a negative connotation towards that at all, man. Like, just to make us better.
Yeah.
Like, I think you should still have the right to go out and get a piece of, cheesecake or whatever, right? On those indulgent things. But like, I think the real underlying thing that I realized, and what I attribute to me doing so well on the carnivore, is I'm taking in no preservatives.
Yeah.
So even if I eat an onion or mushrooms or something like that, they're still sprayed with something. They're still growing in soil that's, somehow genetically modified so it can actually grow the shit, right? Like, I think unless you're growing your own vegetables or sourcing your own meat, I mean, even if you buy a steak from the grocery store, a lot of times it's still washed in beet juice, might have some dye, it might have some sort of preservatives on it. Some of it's coming from across the ocean, dude. It's like, we have all this cattle here. Like, why is the beef at Trader Joe's from New Zealand
imported? Yeah, that's
what
crazy.
the fuck, you know? Like, it makes no sense. Like, that's such a long boat ride.
Yeah. How long ago did you switch to carnivore?
So, God, I'm trying to think. It's been roughly 2 years.
Roughly 2 years. So do you remember when you first, because I just recently, like, I didn't switch over completely. Like, my coach, Clem, has always been like carnivore to the death.
Right.
And he's like really, really strict, like ground beef for lunch, ground beef for dinner, like ribeyes for dinner, like, absolutely no carbs, no anything. And I wasn't that extreme, but recently I switched to it, and because I've just been battling with, I feel like, injury after injury. And so I switched to that. And dude, I was so tired for the first like 2 weeks trying to get.
The first 40 days are brutal.
Oh, it sucked.
Like, even if I dive off a little bit, not to interrupt you, but
no, you're good.
Even if I dive off a little bit and have sugar, it's like a 3 or 4 day rebound to where I have to get myself back to where, like, okay, I'm just going to eat carnivore.
Yeah.
And then I go through this weird, like, some of it's like a mood swing. Like, I notice it cognitively the most.
Big time. Yeah.
Like, I almost feel like I'm hungover if I've had like sugar or like other stuff, or like if I eat carbs.
Yeah, dude.
Like,
so
that's weird.
With the carb thing, like, I had been doing it for like a month, and I was just like, I'd have carbs in the morning because I still, like, when I switched all the way and I was like eggs and bacon and stuff in the morning and only that. And I was drained by the time I got to my second practice later in the day.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, well, I'll kind of split it. And I was like, all right, I won't go so extreme so fast. So then I still, like, I'll have like carbs and stuff in the morning. And then that's it for the day. Like, it's only with breakfast early in the morning.
Well, that makes sense because you're working out so much, right? Yeah. Like, I think if I was rigorously, like, in a fight camp or something, you almost kind of need those carbs to get through. Like, you can get by on some fat and stuff, but I did notice a difference, like, when I would have fruit before, like, a workout or something like that.
Yeah, you get that, like
simple carbs,
spike.
right?
Yeah, well,
fruits, are they simple carbs or complex?
I think they're simple, but it's more, I feel like, the sugar boost that you get. That's where, when I think of fruit, I think of sugar pretty much. That's really like the main, then water.
Yeah.
Because when we were able,
especially if you're eating like a mango or watermelon or something.
Well, like pineapple is pretty much sugar and water. And that's what, like, a lot of times, like, we'd have when we were cutting weight, is like you could have a slice of pineapple and that was, or like a little chunk of pineapple and that was it. Like,
because your body just fires right through it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So you're peeing it out. There's no like repercussion to it as long as you don't go crazy. Just like one to like suffer through until weigh-ins, and then you're okay. But yeah, dude. So when I switched, so I went a couple weeks and then I ate like a blue pan pizza. It's like my favorite thing ever.
What is that?
Oh, dude,
Blue Pan. They do. Pizza,
oh, bro, like they do like a Detroit style, like crunchy, like like square 16-inch pizza.
Detroit's the best, dude.
So good. Just crushed a whole pizza one night after like eating only meat for a little while. Dude, it hung on. I was like bloated and felt like shit for like 3 or 4 days.
That's the biggest thing, and the reason why I've stuck to it is inflammation.
Yeah.
Like it's been a game changer in that, man. Like huge.
Yeah.
Like especially, you know, in the industry that I work in occasionally now. But when I used to, I would just get inflammation. But you're standing on concrete for like, or ice, you know, because a lot of times you're in an arena putting up a rock show or something.
Yeah.
And you're just standing there like most of the day on like perfectly polished concrete or a perfect polished surface.
Super hard.
So your hamstrings get all tight, and then you start to get like, it's bad. If you take off your socks and you can see where your sock line is at, dude, that's horrible inflammation. And I think it's from food, preservatives, all that sort of stuff. But
and sodium,
man, when I did 100 days, like no, I did no seasoning. I was only eating ghee butter, I think was the only other thing, but just nothing but meat products.
Yeah.
And like clean meat products too.
Yeah.
Like not really washing the steaks, where they came from, you know, how long they'd been packaged. I was honestly eating mostly wild game.
Okay.
And then buying super clean, like local beef from Thousand Hills and Colorado Craft Beef, which is not easy, right? Because like if you don't stay on top of it, you'll run out of shit, and then you're like, fuck, now what do I?
Yeah,
now I gotta eat something.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So you kind of have to stay on top of that. But now, you know, I'm just a little bit back and forth. I'm not as serious, but that 100 days was really just to see what I was vitamin deficient in. So to take a SpectraCell.
Okay. Yeah.
And to really get down to the bottom of it. I forgot where I was going with this. Oh, but the inflammation.
Yeah.
Like even now, just the seasoning and stuff that I put on my meat, I can notice some inflammation.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, speaking of inflammation, I mean, that was a lot of where like peptides are going and curbing that. And, it's been big, but yeah, the carbs especially, like I've noticed, and I have psoriasis, which is just like, it's a non-contagious, like it's dry skin essentially. But a lot of people that have it struggle big time, and I can't. So I've got a crazy story about that actually involves BCAM, Brian Camosi.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah. So
yeah, we just had him on. Shout out, dude! What a fucking awesome guy. It was the first time. Like, as long as I've known Chris and you and like Gertz and, you know, all the people that he's been around.
Yeah.
And Mark and, you know, everybody, it's like, that's the first time we had sat down was in here, which was super cool, dude. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, he's such a cool dude.
Outside of here, honestly.
Really?
Like, we'd never even like shook hands.
No way.
So he just came in, recorded, and we had the best time, man. It was cool.
He's a cool dude. Like we, anybody really close to my weight class, like it was always me, Brian, Chris, and Stroop and Ian, like 85ers and up. And we were all together, and then we would we'd have cage rounds and stuff like that. And they, like, I learned probably the first, like the first couple of years I learned pretty much exclusively from Brian. And then he actually played a big part in like tempering, you know, me as a person really, because he would beat the fuck out of me. And, you know, but the thing was, is like, I knew, you know, there were many times where it was like, all right, like I've got to throw, like, and I'm not going down. I'm not going to quit, you know, and he was a lot of kind of what defined that, but where I was going. So, back in the day when I first started, I didn't really have like a hold on my nutrition. I didn't have a hold on anything. I was just kind of eating whatever. And, I was kind of battling. I was a paramedic. So you had stress plus hard workouts, plus like the stress of Factory X, plus the stress of everything else and work and everything. It was, I had like a really red face, and I had just like so psoriasis can get really, really bad when you're really stressed.
Kind of splotchy, right?
It is. Yeah. They're like, they're plaques essentially. And, I had it pretty bad. Like my face would get really, really red, and I had it on my hairline and, stuff like that. So, back in the day, I was desperate to try and find some sort of solution. I tried they do like light therapy. They do a bunch of different medicines. They do creams. There's like steroid creams that take a toll, and you can't use them on your face. I was using them on my face, even though I wasn't supposed to, because it would get rid of it pretty quick. But the thing is it increases vasculature in your face. So like I didn't know, but the more I was using it, the more it was like pretty much making capillaries appear. So my face was just getting redder and redder and redder over time.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. So I went on a med called Otezla, which it's you see commercials about it on like, it's horrible. I will never, ever, ever mess with any of that stuff again. But the way that they had you take it was you titrate to like how sick you want to be ultimately. So it's like you start it and it's like in kind of one of the birth control looking packs, and you scale your dose to the side effects. So like first pill, first set of however many milligrams will give you headaches. Next one up was headaches and nausea. The next one up was headaches, nausea, diarrhea, and it just got worse and worse. It says it on the that's how they told me. That's how the actual dermatologist told me to take it, because they were like, "Look, it's gonna suck," and that was what they told me to do, and because it was just a shit sandwich no matter what. So it was like, so I scaled up to like the highest that I could without. And it was abdominal cramps, it was headaches, it was all kinds of stuff, but I was like trying to get this stuff off my face.
Yeah.
And one of the times like I was at one of the biggest side effects that I got from it that I didn't really realize was depression. And I'll never forget. So I had a cage round with Brian, and I spent 5 minutes just getting my ass beat. Like he beat the fuck out of me for 5 minutes straight. Like, and I didn't quit. I had to hang on to him a couple of times because it was just he was smashing me. But the thing is like, I couldn't find the drive inside to fight. Like it was gone. And no matter how hard I tried, I was like, I just wanted to like stop, and like I was coming apart at the seams. And that was hands down the worst cage round I've ever had in my life, because I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like everything was gray. Like the best way that I kind of explain it is like if like the whole world was gray, and then there was it was like sadness, but it wasn't like deep sad. It was like just blah, like zero affect, like, but no drive, no push, no. And obviously in that sport, like you have to really, really want it, especially against guys like him.
Yeah.
Because they're going to eat you alive if you don't. And, so he smashed me, and like that was the point where I was like, I've got to get off this shit. Like I can't do it anymore. And then it turns out like one of the biggest side effects to it was like suicidal ideation and shit like that. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like this is the best that you guys have for this. And it's
man, there's a ton of shit out there that's like that. And it's like, I really hope that there's some reform coming. I mean,
same.
I'm hopeful, because to take it back in somewhat of a relation, like I purposely like sought out doctors that were pro carnivore.
Yeah.
So I could do this thing right.
Yeah. You have to.
And see, like, cause I was a little nervous. Like one of the main reasons I did it was heart disease runs in my family. It was, I was just turning like 40, I think. So maybe 42. And I had that first sign of like high blood pressure, right?
Yeah.
And the doctors were like, "Hey, we need to put you on some meds. Your blood pressure's been like kind of dancing there, but like we need to put you on
beta blockers,
some meds to curve this, right?" I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I was just going to like a primary, whatever my insurance covered, right? And I think I might have taken them for like maybe 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
That I was on them, and just started doing some research. I think I reached out to Mark Montoya. I was like, dude, I need to find like a nutritionist that knows what the fuck is up. He steered me in the right direction.
Did he give you Minton?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then just went down, some rabbit holes. And then it started getting kind of popular in podcasting. I think like there were some guys that were talking about it or kind of open about it. So I was able to go down. I mean, thank God for podcasts. I was able to go back and listen to podcasts from like 2 or 3 years ago, whether I was listening to Andrew Huberman or Sean Baker on Rogan. And then I hit up Sean Baker, and did a consult with him.
Right on. Yeah.
And so my primary doctor that I was going to at the time, which wasn't even a doctor, was a PA. So they're just like fucking reading out of the book, basically, right? Like, high blood pressure. This is what he needs. They're literally reading off of a laptop, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so they prescribed me that, and then they told me to cut out salt and no more red meat.
Yeah. Oh my God, I just had
right.
Yes.
That's swear to God, this is exactly what they told me to do.
Yeah.
The carnivore diet is primarily red meat.
Yeah.
And then Sean Baker turned around and he goes, you need to have 2,000 milligrams of salt, because if you're going to do this the way that I want you to do it, he's like, you're not going to have any salt in your diet. And then you can start getting, there's all kinds of side effects to not having enough salt in your diet, right? Like dehydration, cramping, there's so much, like digestion, like there's so much that's revolved around salt. And he's the one that actually turned me on to the element salts.
Okay.
So he's like, get some of these packets, make sure you're at least having 2 of these a day. He's like, first morning, I want you to get up and crush, I think he told me half a dozen eggs? He's like, eat as much as you can. He's like, eat a half a dozen eggs and a 1 pound ribeye for breakfast. And I was like, what? I was like, fuck yeah, let's go, you know? And so I think because I like to eat steak and high fat, I've always liked animal fat and stuff, but that was all stuff that they were telling me to stay away from my primary. So then I sought out another primary doctor that, what I found out was a lot of these like insurances like Cigna and Blue Cross, or I don't even know the names of them, and I'm not pointing them out directly. They're under the uniform that you can only go to certain doctors, even if you pay for like the PPO, whatever, I choose to go to this doctor or whatever. Yeah. They want you going to their list of set providers, right? And a lot of those are huge, like corporations. Like it's not just one doctor's office. It's like whatever, like hundreds, right? So it's almost like this big level business, and there might be one doctor that's in that practice, and everybody else is a physician assistant underneath him, right?
It's crazy.
So luckily, a guy that I rolled jiu-jitsu with had his own practice, and he was working for one of those big chains, and we had kind of talked about it, and he left and started his own private practice.
Nice. Yeah.
And just to keep it, like, I think I pay him, I don't remember what I pay him a month, and I'm not going to say it out loud, but I pay him a monthly fee, but I can go see him whenever I want, and then my insurance covers the rest of it. Yeah. But now he doesn't have to read from that book.
Right.
And he was able to help me. He's been able to help me on just so many different levels, man. But I had to seek that out. You can't just like call your insurance and be like, are you covered or whatever? And then to make it even harder, to get my insurance to cover it, I had to call and like get a written letter and be like, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. Like, this is what my nutritionist says. This is what, like all this different stuff to even get them to cover that.
It blows my mind.
It's crazy. Yeah. Like you have to seek that. It was like, I'm super diligent about seeking that out. So I think about just the average person.
Oh yeah.
And I have the time to do it. It takes a ton of extra time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but if you're just the average person that has a 9 to 5 and you're just thinking about getting your kids to soccer practice and all that sort of stuff, like, dude, you might not have time to do that. So like, I think that should be available to anybody and everybody anytime that they want it. Like, and I hate to say it, man, like all those sort of, I'm the last person to seek out a prescription or anything like that. Like I have some serious shoulder issues going on right now. And I'm thinking about going to TJ and doing stem cells, dude. Like if it doesn't get better from my physical therapy, like.
Well, and that was the thing. So when I switched diet-wise, I got off the Otezla and was like, I'm never, ever taking it again. I can't do this. I can't function like this. Like I'm going to get eaten alive. Like I'll never win a fight this way. Like I can't do anything at all fight-related, like competition-wise with this mentality. Got off of it, fixed my diet. I got rid of dairy. I got rid of anything processed. Like everything was all organic. Really, like I started to kind of tighten it up a little bit, got rid of all the processed stuff, started bringing my food to work because I couldn't, when we were on in the middle of the night, everything's closed except for like Wendy's, I think was the only place, or there was one other place in the Springs that was open at night. I completely got rid of all of that, stopped eating all of the bad processed food, everything that I was having to eat on the ambulance, and I was just bringing my own stuff. and I got rid of the psoriasis. I got rid of it. Now it's completely like gone. Like I don't have it at all. Like there's none. My face isn't red anymore. Like I don't have any plaques anymore. Like my joints don't hurt. Like there was so much to it. And all I had to do was change my diet. And then what you were just saying, so my girlfriend has a friend that he just went to a doctor and they said the same thing. They were like, oh, stop eating red meat. And it's like, okay, but you didn't address the smoking or the Dr. Peppers or it's like you didn't want, there was nothing about changing your lifestyle and going to the gym and getting healthy and like cutting out all of the shit you're eating. It was just get away from red meat because it's bad and your
well, part of the problem, and I could be wrong on this, but somebody, I think my doctor actually told me this, and it might have been Sean Baker that told me this. I've heard it multiple times. Mm-hmm. Those peer-reviewed like studies or those clinical studies, whatever they are, are from like 30 or 40 years ago to begin with.
Yeah.
And then back then people weren't, I guess, as conscious. So like when they were doing those surveys of like, do you eat red meat? And was it related to like high blood pressure and stuff? Mm-hmm. They weren't taking into account that most of the people that ate red meat were smokers. When you go to a steakhouse, like the sides are fucking the best thing in the world, dude. Like lobster, macaroni, and cheese. Yeah. The mashed potatoes have like a heap of, or even if you order a baked potato, it's coming with like a ton of shit on it, right? Like it looks like a salad almost by the time it comes. And then you have all the other stuff, you know, like candied bacon and it's like... So even if you are just eating meat, but if you just ate the steak, there's nothing wrong with it. No. So those studies were kind of like, it's not, you know, every high-end steakhouse that you go to is going to drop bread at your table before you even start, dude.
Exactly.
Like,
and there goes the carbs right there, right out of the gate. And then inflammation to the extreme, you know, and that I noticed that big time because I no more bread. I was having like turkey sandwiches for lunch a long time ago and I got rid of those and it cleaned up and like, when I asked you about kind of how your first transition was to it, it was like I asked mainly because when I first switched over, the energy problems, and then I was like, oh God, I need carbs or I need something. I've got to like, but now I feel like from talking with Clem, he had said, you know, I was going a little bit too lean meat wise. Yeah. And he brought my like ground beef from like, I was eating like 97% lean.
No, you need down 2080, like bro.
Yeah, bro. And that's what he said. So I couldn't find 2080, but we're doing 85. And because I'm still going to Whole Foods for everything. Just it was like the cleanest, most easily accessible
natural
place
grocers locally here in Colorado is a good spot to buy some ground beef. Yeah.
That's where we got a bunch of eggs from and it was awesome. But he was like, look, you need higher fat content because eventually what's going to happen, I don't know the pathophysiology on it, but your body switches from carbs as fuel to fat. And it slowly but surely got easier. And then I was like, oh, sweet. Like even the other day, like I had some steaks that I needed to eat before they went bad because I just buy them. I don't freeze anything. And I crushed like a New York strip for lunch. And then instead of crashing and immediately going to sleep, like I was revved up, ready to go, and I went to the gym and just fucking smashed it.
Yeah.
And that was the thing with the peptides, because there's a ton of different peptides out there. I think you talked to Telly a little bit about this, but
yeah, I'm curious about it because are you on peptides?
I am. Yeah.
What is the injury that you're coming off of,
bro? Like I spent so many years healthy and not fighting, and I'm like really, really like getting down to the last couple of years that I'm going to do it, and it's like it's just injury after injury. But the biggest one, I hurt my hip, and I don't know if I flared a little hard on a low kick or like something, but my hip's been fucked for like probably 2 months now, and I got to the point where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I've got to do something. Like it will not heal. And it's like, okay, well, you could take months off of training. And it's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to stop. Like I'll work around it. If I have to box, I'll box. I didn't throw middle kicks for a month.
That's kind of what I'm going through with my shoulder right now. It's bugging the shit out of me. Yeah.
So I'm on, so ultimately I got to the point, I actually heard it from a podcast and I'm like, you know what, maybe that's the issue. Cause I've noticed that like injuries just hang on. Like, everybody's got this whole, oh, you're getting old, blah, blah, blah. I think it's a bunch of bullshit. I think that ultimately, yes, age plays a factor in certain things, but the only thing that I've seen it play a factor in is the length of time it takes to heal. That's the only thing I've noticed, because still technically, like, I'm performing at an elite level, both with telly and in Thai boxing in general. My speed is extremely high. I'm still extremely explosive. My reaction times are fantastic. Everything is really good. It just, like, when I get damaged, it takes fucking forever to heal. So then I was like, all right, well,
it's more like a mileage thing, I think, than age, right?
Yeah.
Like what you've done with your body and for how long.
Well, and that's something that Mark used to tell me, that he said exactly that. He was like, dude, you don't have any of the mileage, because I used to kind of, like, I had a bunch of kind of like freak out, like, breakdowns when I first started, because I'm like, fuck, when I need to get moving now, I was super impatient because I thought, like,
because you kind of started in this a little bit later than most guys do, right?
Yeah. So I'm talking to him and he's like, dude, he eventually was just like, stop it. It's like, you don't have the mileage. You're fine. You just get back to work, and it was very necessary. Now I really understand it. And it's like, mileage wise, yeah, I'm probably millions of middle kicks and low kicks by this point.
Especially going to Thailand. Yeah. That's all you're doing, right?
Non-stop. Yeah. And I've always been a kicker too. So it was like every chance I got, it was like either low kicking or middle kicking or high kicking all the time. And then, Thailand, non-stop. I mean, we're throwing at least probably 400 to 500 practice, and there were 2 practices a day, every day for 6 days a week. I mean, everything you do pretty much you kick non-stop. And
or check. I mean, that's pretty much the same. I mean, that's got to take a toll on the hip too, right?
Mm-hmm. So, but for some reason it was weird. And I never had, like, my hips have always been stiff, but I had been working on mobility, trying to get them, like, I was stretching consistently every day. And then I ended up with a hip issue. So then I was like, I've got to do something to speed up my recovery, because I went to my chiropractor, really super, super smart guy, holistic, like, very, like, on my wavelength. And as far as, like, the whole vaccines and what a man is and what a woman is and all of that stuff. And he told me, he was like, look, you're good. He was like, it'll heal, but it's, you've got, like, it's just going to take a little bit of time. I'm like, well, I'm playing ice hockey 3 times a week, and I'm in the gym. Right now, my schedule's a little bit lower than normal, but I'm like 5 times a week on pads in the mornings, and then I'm lifting every day. I'm like, I cut back a little bit, but I'm like, I need to heal faster. So then I hit up my buddy over at Castle Rock Men's Health, and I asked him, I'm like, what do I do, man? Like, I need something to speed this up. And he was like, have you thought about peptides? It's like, well, I from what I had heard about them, they were still pretty experimental, and it was like they had only had rodent studies, and they had, like, it was kind of, but then you dig around, and, like, I literally searched on every single website I could find, listened to podcast after podcast, could not find anything at all negative about them. Like, no matter how hard I dug, and so then I was like, all right, like, let's try it. So then they put me on BPC 157, TB 500, GHKCU, which is like copper.
And are they localized shots? Is that how you?
Yeah. So it's sub-Q. So you essentially, like, you pretty much just pinch the skin and then just put the needle in there, and it goes right under your skin, and then you let go and you're good. And it's like, they're super easy, super tiny needles, and you have to do it every day. The standard, like, protocol for it, because it's still on, like, the experimental phase. Mm-hmm. It's like 5 days on, 2 days off. And it was like, I was reluctant, because the thing is actually Huberman had talked about it. He was like, it does vascularize tissue, which is great for injury. So, like, ligament and tendon, they don't get a lot of blood flow. So if, like, I tore, if this is like a labrum tear in my hip or something like that, it doesn't get a ton of blood flow to it. But what BPC and a lot of these other peptides do is they increase vasculature, which will increase blood flow to that area, which should heal.
Did you try dry needling at all or anything like
not on my hip, not on this one. I've had it before for other stuff, but
I'm a fan of that. I think that's
super
helped me
helpful.
out too. Yeah.
E-stim.
If you have the time. Yeah.
So the chiropractor I was talking about, he does electroacupuncture. So it's not so much dry needling, but he puts the needles in.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
It.
Yeah. It's a dry needle, but then they hook a electrode to it and it just pulses like whatever you got going on just to promote blood flow.
Yeah. So that was great. I had that done on my hip. That one I did do. And then after all, I was like, well, I can't keep taking Advil. That shit will wreck you too, man. Big time.
Like you take that enough.
Yeah, it destroys your gut and everything. Yeah. And that's where like the peptides come from is your gut. So it's like all of these are synthesized from stuff that I already had. So it's not like...
Which I'm a fan of, man. It's like that makes so much sense to me.
Right? Well, it's not some like experimental mRNA tech that nobody's ever tried. It's like this.
Like the COVID vaccine?
And
there goes the episode now.
I remember last time I almost got into it. You were like, "Oh, we're gonna get like they're gonna put us like they're gonna shut us down."
I don't care anymore.
Yeah. Oh man. So this is all stuff from your gut. Like you actually created it. Just they give you a little bit more. So, it's had a huge impact. The thing is I got it for my hip, and I was like, all right, well, it's before I knew it, dude. Like my right shoulder. Like, because I made a tackle in football and somebody jumped on the top. Like I had a hold of him. I had a hold of his jersey and somebody jumped on top of me trying to grab him. And it like pulled this. And I think my shoulders hurt ever since that play. And so when I lat pull down, it hurts. It used to hurt when I would incline bench. Like it would just but it wasn't bad pain. It was just like, it was annoying pain. It's like when you first bench press for the first time and your shoulders feel kind of shitty. That's what it was like all the time. I haven't felt that pain at all since I got on this. And it was kind of weird at first. Like it made my skin burn and I was nervous about it with psoriasis because nitric oxide increase. I remember I don't know if you remember NO2, it was the first like big supplement that pushed nitric oxide levels up in your blood to make you like.
I think I remember something like this. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen it at some point. It was a long time ago. This was, probably 20 years ago that it came out.
Was that Andro? Was Andro NO2?
No, it was, but I think it was around that same.
There was some crazy shit back then, dude.
They were doing ephedra and everything.
Fuel and fucking all that sort of.
Rip Fuel was man. And then I remember
used to take that stuff and then go to boxing or fucking go to the gym or
and it
play
had real
football.
ephedra.
We were playing football on it.
They took ephedra out, and then my buddy was buying ephedra from
from Mexico or some shit.
And then he was adding it back to the Rip Fuel.
God,
that was like high school. But man. So but NO2, I took that, and I had like the worst. Probably the second or third worst like outbreak of psoriasis over my whole body because the nitric oxide shot way up. But I was eating like shit. There was a lot of other things playing a factor at that point. So I was like, shit, if for some reason this pushes my nitric oxide level, it's going to, and it's going to increase, blood flow and everything. I'm like, am I going to have an issue with it? And, bro, nothing. Like it's cut inflammation down extreme. Like the first, I'd say like second or third day in, my joints hurt. And I was kind of nervous about that. I was like, and then like after about a week or two, like it felt like somebody hit me with an oil can, like in every single joint. Like I feel sweet. Like,
really?
Oh man, huge difference. My shoulder doesn't hurt. Like there's no issue with it at all.
I might be hitting you up after this for your doc, dude, for a recommendation because
it's awesome.
I'm almost 7 months in right now where I can't get back, and I'm starting to go through. I'm doing a ton of the electro needling, whatever that's called. So I'm going like once a week, and I really like. The first like 4 months, I was kind of like, oh, it'll get better. Yeah. I'll just stop. But I was still doing a lot of like overhead stuff. And now they're like, don't do any overhead stuff, which sucks, dude. I'm like, fucking, there's so many lifts that are overhead or like whatever. So, and then where I really noticed is like, I got to get better by next archery season.
Yeah.
Cause it hurts to like hold my bow up, So like, I got to get that back. Like, I'm just like,
It's worth a shot.
Yeah.
It's just the only thing that kind of sucks about it is it's daily injections.
Is it expensive?
It's like I'm paying like $300, I think, around there. So I use like $280, $300
for a month.
Dose, yeah. So you get
that's worth it,
and it's all the peptides mixed up into one too. So, yeah. I mean, the thing was like my skin the copper peptide in it.
But it didn't mess with your psoriasis then. Yeah.
Didn't mess with the psoriasis at all, which I was really nervous about. Yeah.
Do you get flare ups in that when you change back to like that? If you slip up on your diet at all or anything like that?
Yeah,
really?
Especially if my stress level is really high and I kind of keep it baseline like extreme all the time anyway.
Right.
So, but when, there have been a couple times where I'll take a month off and just like, I've had emotional like roller coaster funks here and there where I'll like get down. I'm like, all right, well, I'll take a month and chill and like kind of contemplate everything that's going on and then start to slip diet wise. And then I'll see like, I'll get a little spot somewhere. It'll slowly start to creep its way out again. And
that's crazy.
But the thing was, I got rid of it completely with diet.
Yeah.
Diet and exercise, it was gone, like completely gone. And it's like, then they have meds out there that they're trying to give you that will make you suicidal.
Well, that's the problem is they have a med for like everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. To make money
including depression, like which I don't know, man. I'm on the fence on all that shit too, man. It's like, I just don't believe anything that anybody tells me anymore.
No,
like,
I think,
I'm starting to feel that way more and more. And I don't know if it's my age or if everything that's happened in the last 4 years, but it's just like, unless you're sitting across from me and you're Chris Lockhart and we're bros, I ain't listening to shit, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
That's where I'm at.
I don't care what these drones are. I don't give a fuck. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, yeah, it's like
crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and especially when you go to healthcare providers and then they give you bullshit advice like stop eating red meat. It's like, well, who can you trust? Like that was the
exact opposite.
Yeah, like the complete opposite.
And well, to bring that back full circle, when I started eating red meat and salt only, literally in 1 month, because I was taking my blood pressure every day. I had an in-home machine, like the cuff and everything, right? I was like, all right, I'm going to fucking do this.
Yeah.
So I was watching my weight and my blood pressure, and I have it on a graph I can show you.
Yeah.
And literally both of them just dropped off like a roller coaster. Like, it's insane.
Yeah. And
like a plummet.
Yeah. I mean, in that it's out there and there is data on this. And people will still look you in the face and say, eat more chicken.
Yeah.
Like, stop eating
or
red
fish
meat.
or whatever.
Yeah,
So the one thing that Sean Baker, and then we'll get off of this diet shit.
Yeah, no, we're good.
The one thing that Sean Baker had me do is he was like, okay, now that you got through the first week, or I think it was 2 weeks, he was like, eat whatever you want. Fucking bacon.
Yeah.
Whatever, dude. Eggs, crush fish, crush everything, right? Like, primarily red meat, but just crush everything. And then he's like, I want you to take 3 days and only eat eggs.
Yeah.
And, pay attention to how your body feels like after that 3 days. And then for 3 days, I want you to eat nothing but chicken. And when you're eating chicken that's not seasoned or anything, dude, that is the fucking
worst, bro.
It's the worst, bro. Like, that's the thing, too, is I don't think people realize what you start putting on shit to make it taste good. You know what I mean? Like, you start adding like Parmesan cheese or fucking like all this sort of shit. And a ton of that stuff has all these like horrible nitrates in it and just like all kinds of different shit, right?
Well, chicken is nitrate ridden too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like to find, you know what I mean? Like that's probably some of the worst shit that you can buy that's genetically modified.
Yeah.
Like if you're just buying like normal chicken.
Yeah. Just chicken breasts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which so much of us, when we, you go to the gym, it's like, yeah, all right. Like I've eaten so many chicken salads that I can't eat them anymore. They make me
just
sick.
Look at the difference between an organic chicken breast and like whatever the regular one is that you buy from the butcher.
Yeah.
Like the size difference is fucking insane,
it's in fruit
dude.
too. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like organic fruit is much smaller.
Yeah.
And sweeter. Like it's crazy.
It is wild, man. So just noticing that, and then, so like eating chicken for 3 days and then whatever. But what I ended up like tailoring it down to after I'd eaten steak and all that sort of stuff was like steak made me feel the best. Like red meat made me feel the best, made me perform the best because I was going to the gym regularly.
Yeah.
And then I even tailored it down more to like what type of red meat. So I would only eat deer for 3 days. I'd only eat elk for 3 days. But I found like I felt great if I ate that for 2 days. But by the third day, if I didn't have like a ribeye or something with a nice fat cap on it or something, I was just like depleted in energy.
Okay, that makes sense then, because that was what Clem had said when we were talking about ground beef percentage. Because it was...
Well, even on that 80-20, I would cook it like in a pan, or as a patty, but then I would strain the grease out of it. So you're not just like eating, because that's horrible to eat.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Like, I mean, you'd be so shocked at how much like grease is on 80-20. Like it'll cover the meat, like literally. So I just got this little like strainer thing that it like clips onto your like frying pan.
Oh yeah.
Because I would like to do that with eggs, and you just like strain it out into like a jar or something and throw it away, you know?
Actually, to ask you for people listening to, like when you do eggs, you keep the yolks. Like on everything. That was because when I first switched, I'm like, okay, so you want me to have like...
Somebody gives me an egg white fucking anything, dude, I'm going to tell them to get it the fuck out of my face, dude.
So I asked, that was one of my questions that I asked Clem. I'm like, dude, look, he was like, yeah, I have a pound of ground beef and 5 eggs every night. And I'm like, you're eating, because that was another thing that was everybody was said like, oh, well, egg whites, or egg yolks will give you high cholesterol. And
that is the thing. You will get high cholesterol. It'll show up as high cholesterol any blood test you take.
Yeah.
But there's a
HDL and
difference.
LDL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's difference in cholesterol. So like, unless you're really testing those differences or your blood work, if your doctor's not submitting the right blood work, they're going to want to put you on cholesterol medicine.
Yeah.
And they're going to tell you to stop eating egg yolks. And
because there's
all kinds of shit.
There's HDL and LDL, like a good and a bad cholesterol. Just like avocados have, poly and monounsaturated fats and a bunch of other stuff in there where it's like, you'd see it as saturated fat. It's like bad. But when you look at actually what the composition is of those fats, there's actually a lot of really good fats in avocado, which is something that like even that's where I kind of like onions, for example, like I had that with steak last night. So I just had a big ribeye and a strip of bacon.
Dude. I fucking love onions, dude.
Yeah. And then I just grill onions with it and it's money.
Avocado is badass too. Like that's... I'll dibble dabble in that, especially if like ground beef and egg yolk and avocado, dude.
Yeah,
like, let's go.
Yeah, that's my dinner pretty much every night now, and I'll throw in 4 eggs. So I'm doing kind of what Clem's doing. It's the pound of ground beef, 4 eggs, and then like half an avocado, or nothing at that point, and then I just use like low calorie like organic seasoning, or I just pink sea salt everything.
Yeah.
I crush pink sea salt and ground pepper, and that's it.
I'm back on the seasoning, dude. I'm like, that was such a game changer. It's just like, you got to have, like, I mean, I was salting the steak, but like, it's different having like, if you're buying like some decent shit, there's some decent shit out there. Like, I like spicy a little bit, So like, some of the stuff I'm buying is like spicy.
Yeah. And that's like hot sauces. I feel like they have a real low calorie toll. There's no fat. There's no any, like
just chemicals though. That's what you got to be careful of, man. It's like all that sort of shit. But even just slipping up here or there, like, I mean, I have noticed, since this injury and stuff, I could be doing better. That's all I'm saying.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's hard, man. But I think that there's also there's a level to like living too a little bit, right?
Yes.
Like you have
the balance of.
Yeah. Like if you're experiencing, a birthday or something with your kids or something like that. It's like, I don't know. There's something about that too. I think that's healthy for you as long as you're not doing it every night repetitively, right?
Exactly. But you need to be human.
I do it in here with alcohol. I don't really drink alcohol.
Yeah.
Outside of here. And boy, when I drink in here, I fucking pay for it too.
Well, that's like ultra inflammatory. And that's where, and I'm with you. Like there's so many different things like that where I just, you especially like hangovers and stuff like that, and then it just kind of...
It's not worth it, man.
No, and that's where a lot of my mentality has changed on that, because it's like, okay, we'd go out, we'd have fun. Like, I've never been a beer guy, but like, whenever I drank, it was like, let's fucking go. Like, I'm going to the abyss, bro. Let's die tonight. So...
Sounds like fun, dude.
Oh, man, we'd rage.
Yeah.
And, and it's like, okay, cool. Like you go to the pool the next day and lay out and die at the pool, and like you're, and then you're good again. But it's like a lot of that went away when I was, you're training full time. Like you can't afford to do that. Like
it just takes such a toll on your body, man. Like if you're really monitoring your sleep, which I was doing, like I noticed that when I was strictly carnivore, my sleep is, if I drink alcohol, it's fucked.
Dude, it ruins it. Kills your whole REM.
Fucked.
Like,
fucked.
It's wild. And
it is wild.
Yeah. So that was, so there's the nutrition portion.
Yeah. The first hour.
Yeah. But it's crazy, man.
So what's been going on, bro? You were in Thailand or you were on your way to Thailand.
Yeah. That was
like you stopped
time.
in like the day before or something you were leaving.
I feel like I left
fresh off of Ice Wars, dude. You had a big old 25 stitches. You look so much prettier right now,
dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, my face isn't torn in half. That's cool.
That was wild, dude. That was a wild, because I think I went to Ice Wars that weekend, and then you came in like the following like Monday.
Close. I was still like real open. Like I remember, I saw the picture of it the other day, and I was like, oh,
let's go, man.
Yeah, bro. Like, and I ended up, because I got my stitches removed in Thailand.
Right.
So my coach out there pulled them out.
I was surprised you showed up, man, because I hit you up. I think like we left on Sunday or whatever, because I think the fights were on Saturday, and we had met there.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I want to have Chris on. I hit you up, and I was like, hey, you want to come in for a podcast? And you're like, I'm going to Thailand, if I'm remembering correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. And I was like, okay, cool, when? And you're like, tomorrow. I was like, well, do you want to come in, do a podcast? And you were like, yeah. So I was expecting a no, dude, especially after that weekend.
Like, yeah. It's like cloudy. Like,
so my hat goes off to you. I was like, this motherfucker's a ride or die, dude. Let's go.
Yeah. No, I was grateful for sure. And it's awesome to see you again. And that's,
I'm sorry it took so long. I can't believe we haven't done anything in between there, dude.
Well, it's like, even then, this last go around when you asked, I was like, I felt so bad kind of postponing a little bit, I'm like, I don't want to get on here and just fucking cry for 2 hours like a pussy. You know, it's like,
dude, I've done it before.
Oh my God.
You know, I don't stress about it, dude. Like, honestly, like anybody that I have sitting in here has got so much going on in their lives at such like high levels that I don't ever stress like if somebody tells me no multiple times, it's no big deal, man. It's like, well, just fucking do it when it's convenient. Like, I want people to come in here relaxed, have a good time.
Because I'm way in a better mind space right now. When before it's like, and because that's the thing, that's the last thing. Because I love coming in here and hanging out with you guys, and it's like it's such a cool deal, and I enjoy it. And but it's like. It's like, okay, well, I'm hurt. I haven't been able to, train the way that I want to. I'm trying to figure out if like the sport's trying to, shut me out. If I'm like, there's so much stuff going on, and it's like in the grand scheme of things, like life is sweet. Like company's doing fantastic. Like I've got money, like things are good. Like I've, got, beautiful, wonderful girlfriend, like super happy. Like everything is good in that regard. But I'm like, okay, well, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my, where's my purpose? I'm not having kids. So it's like what I'm kind of navigating.
Don't ever
life.
think like, I think with some podcasts, people always have an agenda or they want to talk about your career. Like my favorite podcasts are like the last one I just did with Tilly.
Yeah.
Like the first 2 times he came in, we talked about nothing but strength and conditioning. It was just like cut and dry, Mr. Landau, suit and tie. I fucking love that guy. Like, but I didn't know much about, I've hung out with him a ton outside of it too, but it's always just been it's different outside of here. When you lock yourself in this room, like you can really get to know somebody. I had no idea he worked on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier, and like just all this stuff like came out, that I learned so much about him. But also like those are my favorite ones is when I have somebody in that's like maybe been in special operations and we don't even bring that up. We just talk about whatever, dude. Yeah. Just shoot the shit about meat and eggs or whatever, like
it's fun, man. And like Telly especially is like, he was on flight decks. Like he's been in my corner and like my strength and conditioning coach for like 10 years,
That's crazy,
and I see him religiously at least right now twice a week. But it was 3 times a week, every week for years and years and years.
Such a good
dude. He's awesome. And, he's one of the few people that I can actually like really talk to. And that's kind of on my, I don't talk to really anybody at all. That's a lot of like the reality of my life is like I train and I go home and I work and I'm behind a computer. And like my only like human interaction, like I go to the gym just to be around people. Like I go to Ratchet 24 hour. and that Tiffany hates. It's funny. It's like I have like a death grip on this specific 24 hour, and it's the shittiest 24 hour ever. But like I've been going to it for so long, and it's like I've gotten through so much bullshit in my life at that 24 that now I'm like emotionally attached to it. And I know where everything is. Like I know, like it's very convenient for everything.
Places have character, man.
Yeah.
Like when you start thinking about what you've done in certain, like this place.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. And the memories in here. Like,
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And that's like how many freaking blonde monsters I had to get over at that damn 24. So it was like, you know, but yeah, so going like with Telly, like I've always been with him. He's always guided me. Like he's been a huge, like he's so smart. And I listened to a chunk of what you guys did the other day, and he's so articulate. But overall, like he's really like science-based, and I love that. Like actual science, not what, you know.
And just that whole concept of ask why.
Yeah.
Like, why are we, you know, like to bring it right back to what we were talking about doctors. Like, well, why? Why is this the standard? Why?
Yeah.
You know?
Ask questions. Like, look into it. And it doesn't have to be one thing. It's like with medicine in general, because I was a paramedic for a long time. I was an EMT for a long time. Like, I was in the OR. Like, I have a lot of exposure in medicine. It's always evolving. It's supposed to evolve. Like, that was the whole thing about the whole COVID thing. It's like, it's okay to admit that you're wrong. Like, because that was the thing. Right out of the gate, they were like, oh, well, put this mask on and everything will be fine. It's like, first off, the mask isn't used for that. Like, when they were all about the whole surgical mask thing, it's like, or wearing N95s to protect other people. It's like the N95 is meant to protect you. The surgical mask is meant to protect a sterile field. It has no inbound protection at all.
Meanwhile, like shit's just flying. Yeah, it's actually worse for your health than it is beneficial, man.
It was. Like, and people still to this day will go out wearing, not only just wearing a mask.
Dude,
right
I was
now,
just on a flight a couple days ago. I think Jeremy and I were talking about this on the podcast. Like, I was just on a flight the other day, and the flight attendants were like rubber gloved.
It's crazy.
And it's creeping back into the. It's creeping back into the food stores.
Yeah.
Everywhere, man.
Well, there was somebody yesterday at the gym that had a mask on, and it was like,
that's smart.
He had, I'm like, dude, first off, you have a surgical mask on. That means that you were sick, which means that you shouldn't be here. Yeah. Okay. So if you're trying to protect yourself from other people, like, cause I have friends that are actually immunocompromised. They wear an N95 in public, and that's the way that it should, like, that's the actual practical use of that mask.
Which you can barely fucking breathe through, man, if you've ever put one of those things on. I only put it on like once or twice.
Yeah, we had to be fitted on the ambulance. Like, they put a cone on, like, it's like a plastic thing over your head, and then they shoot like it's just like a benign, like, it's almost like chalk. And you breathe in through the N95, and it shows where there are leaks, and you actually get fitted for them. So I actually had my specific size.
So was it like a custom mask then?
No, just it was a specific, like, they had a bunch of different sizes of N95s.
That's crazy.
And then I had my specific one. And
well, it just got to the point where, like, when I was having to travel and stuff, I was just taking like the neck gaiters. Like I bought
breathable fabric.
Like just to like make it look, you know, like
play the part.
Yeah, play the part. But then even then they were like, I think at one point they were like, no, it's got to be a proper mask or some shit.
Doing that
and they would
planes.
like bring you a mask, right? Wouldn't they bring you a mask if you didn't have the?
Yeah.
Like you couldn't get on like fucking gangster, right? In your bandana.
It was we.
Dude, the bandana was the funniest.
Bro,
that was the
best,
dude.
Part.
So bad.
It was so ridiculous.
Oh my god.
So ridiculous.
And the face shields and it's like, Jesus Christ, people.
You know what was funny? The whole time I was thinking, boy, if you wanted to commit crime, this is a great way to do it.
They still do. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Have you seen the signs outside of the stores now that say like no face coverings and no hoods and no? I'm like, you fucking bitches. Like, Jesus. Like, look at what we've done.
I know.
You know? And you notice too, every single like big, you know, riot or protest, guess what? Everybody's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
It's like, so now it's not even for health, because that was the thing too.
I mean, they were wearing them before COVID.
Well, and that was the thing. Back when all of the BLM riots and shit were happening, they weren't wearing masks at all. There was spotty around there. We're all locked in our houses and wearing masks and, getting harassed in public for going outside without one. And then you've got BLM burning shit down with no masks on. And it's like they're huge mass gatherings, all of the worst shit that you could ever think like that they were saying you could do.
Right.
And they were rioting and looting and burning shit down. It's like
so crazy.
That's where science went.
Yeah.
And
it was all happening at the same time, mind you, man. Like
this
I was so
this
fortunate.
Is me yelling at my wife in our house. What the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
She's like, I know, it's crazy, but you got to settle down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm the more even keel one, but Tiffany is crazy.
Were you a paramedic at that time when all that shit was going on?
No.
Wow.
So
this was prior to COVID then, huh?
Thank God. Yeah. I wouldn't have lasted. Like it would have been bad. And the thing was like so I went from the Springs. I worked out there for a couple of years, and it was hard 911 system. Like, and it's AMR out there. So they contract with the Colorado Springs Fire. And we're running alongside a fire company every time because they had their own paramedics, but not their own ambulances. So we were always understaffed because it was like budget. So we're running 15 calls in a 12. Like it was a hard system to be in. High trauma, knife and gun club type shit like Denver.
Really?
And we were able to have a higher scope of practice out there too. So I had a whole like special... I was wavered to do a lot of skills that the medics in Denver can't do and have never been trained on, like rapid sequence intubation and a lot of stuff like that in Denver they can't do at all. They don't even have the meds for it. But then I switched.
What is that?
So
if you're not checking out the Mountainside podcast on YouTube, you absolutely should be. If you like the content that we create here and you want to help support the podcast, please take a moment, subscribe to us on YouTube, and hit that notification bell.
This is actually cool. Shout out to one of my best friends. They call him Fishy. Well, I call him Fishy, but they call him Fish, but he's a flight paramedic in Summit. Him and I were on the rig together, for a couple of years, and he was an ex-DG guy. So he worked for Denver Paramedics for 17 years, I think, and then went to the Springs. Him and I were on together. We had like the best call ever. So it's like, we go out to this dude. We got called for he was like unconscious, unresponsive party, like stuck in a vehicle, right? So we go, we pull up. Dude is like in his car. He was actually conscious, and he just couldn't respond. So he had like a death grip on his steering wheel, and his right arm was like limp, but he had a grip on his steering wheel that he couldn't let go, and he was just stuck like looking like this, and he couldn't move. So we look, and it's like dude had a raging stroke, like big time stroke. So I pry his fingers off the steering wheel. It was really hard to get him. Then we got him out of the car, throw him on the stretcher, get him in the back of the ambulance, and luckily on that call we had another with one of the guys from the fire company was an AMR EMT. He was able to drive. So we're 50 minutes way out east in like Yoder or somewhere east of Colorado Springs, and long transport. And it's either we fly this dude or we take him. But because we had RSI, we could take him. So what we did was so RSI is rapid sequence intubation. So you get a whole bunch of different meds. So we had we had paralytics and we had sedatives. So,
and just to be clear, flight paramedics are trained in completely different stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like they have so much more medicine at
Vents.
their, all kinds of different stuff, right?
Yeah, it's a whole different cert. So
if you work rurally or more rural than in like a major city, well, Colorado Springs is a major city.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we just were responding way out east, so they were contracted to cover like all of the surrounding areas. So one of the cool parts about that is most paramedics, like in Denver, I never had a transport longer than like 10 minutes. Like the longest transports were from DIA to university, and it was super quick. Out there, you're off with nobody, and you're 45 minutes to an hour away. So the cool part
critical, man.
It's
like the golden hour, right? Or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, and there's so much that you can do in between then. And so when you're in the city, you have a 10-minute transport. you can start IVs, you can push maybe a med or two, do critical stuff, and then you're handing them off to the ER. Out there, it's like you're full on, like you're actually going to see the end of your first treatments and start your second one. So like for out there, for example, for this call, we get him in the back of the ambulance, and we get him in the back of the ambulance, and we start getting everything set up, and we're getting IVs started, stuff like that, and then we go into the RSI sequence. So ultimately, I'm getting all of my airway stuff because I actually dropped the tube on that one. So I intubated the guy. I had all of my stuff laid out. I have Fishy over on the bench seat, getting all of the lines started and getting the meds drawn up for it. And then, so like sedatives and paralytics and everything that we were going to use, because the guy was stroking so hard, and then he eventually started to seize. And then we had the other guy that was an AMR employee, so it worked out great because we were like, hey, dude, look, like, will you drive? Like, because we both need to be back here. This dude's super sick. Like, if he's already herniating, he's seizing, like, we have to get him under now, or he's like, the dude's going to die. So he's like, sweet. So he ran us back code 10, like, or lights and sirens back. It was a 45-minute transport.
That's so long.
Yeah. So like I have Fishy put him out, and then I'm bagging him. So I've got like, so I guess a lot of this is paramedic term, but like bagging is like the big blue bag. So
like breathing for him.
Breathing. Yeah. So he's still kind of breathing on his own, but like I've got control of his airway. He sedates him. He's still breathing on his own at that point. And then once Fishy pushes the actual paralytic, then he stops breathing completely. And that's when I start bagging. That's when I go to, I've got 100, high flow oxygen going into the bag, and I'm starting to like ventilate him up high enough to where, like it's essentially your O2 sat, which you see when you go into the doctor, the little guy they put on your finger.
Right.
I get him up to 100%. And then I pull the mask, and then I go in with a laryngoscope, and I put a breathing tube in, and then secure the tube and everything, and then hook it back up to that bag. And then I start breathing for him again, but with a patent airway. Because a lot of times, like, they'll either start throwing up, or so you want to secure an airway. But with RSI, the succinylcholine is a paralytic, and etomidate was our sedative. Succinylcholine metabolizes really quick, which this transport was so long that we were actually able to switch him from Sux to Vecuronium, which is a long-term, it's a long-term paralytic, which I know doesn't mean a ton. It's hopefully somebody listens and they understand this stuff, but where I'm getting is like those transports are really hard and they're long, and nobody ever, like, first off, like Sux and Vec and all of these other meds that we had, you don't have in Denver, because you don't have them for that long. You don't have transports that long. There's no need. But for us, we were able to push the short term and the long term within one call and completely stabilize this dude and get a patent airway, get all the lines set up, and get him totally to the point where he could go right into the ER and get TPA or get whatever they were going to give him to try and break this clot up, or if depending on if it's hemorrhagic or not, what like the underlying etiology of the stroke, depending on what it was, because TPA is essentially like clot buster.
That's crazy, man.
But yeah,
because one thing I think that would be hard on my psyche, and just putting myself in that position, is knowing what happened afterwards. Did you guys ever, like, after you drop him off at the hospital, is there any, like...
I don't remember what follow-up was on that one, because I don't know if I think he probably died, but I'm not, I don't remember what follow-up. This was, because I got off the ambulance in like 2014, I think 15, I think around there. So I've been off so a lot of this stuff is just kind of, it's been a minute now, 10 years probably, but yeah.
Do you miss that at all?
I miss the medicine, but I tell you what, man, like one of the things that, thinking of like Brian, for example, one of the calls that I ran with Denver, we were on Broadway, and we're like, it was a restaurant. So like there were a bunch of people sitting in there, and there was a car out there, and fire's there, PD is there. They're like, hey, this dude's altered. He doesn't know, like, he won't answer questions appropriately. Like, well, you figure out what the hell's wrong with this dude. So I was like, okay, cool. So he's like standing in his driver door, and
altered mean like under the influence of something? Or?
Could be. Could have been drugs, could have been low blood sugar, could have been a whole bunch of other things. But so this dude's standing there, he's like kind of an asshole, like borderline combative. I ask him like the preliminary questions and he fails all of them. And I'm like, all right, well, shit, we're going to have to take this dude in. Well, the thing is like when somebody that's like that, that's still like able to, physically move and still like they're able to fight you, even though they don't know where they are. They don't know what day it is. They don't know who the president is. They can't answer any of your questions. They can still fight. And so I'm looking and I'm like, I'm going to have to fucking drag this dude by his head, get him on the stretcher. Like we're all going to have to like not really hog tie because that was.
But they have restraints, right?
Yeah, I have soft restraints. Well, we use Curlex, so it's like it's gauze essentially. Because at Denver we just gauzed. We had like really, really like it's hard to break. Like it's really borderline impossible to break. You have to be really, I had seen even some of the dudes on like the meanest drugs you could possibly get, they would pull so hard on it that they would like blow blood out of their IVs before they could break the Curlex.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to drag this dude out of the car. Like, cause he's starting to be an asshole. I was trying to be nice. Like, hey, look, like, you know what, just come back here. We'll get you on the stretcher. We'll get you in the ambulance and like, we'll talk some more. Cause it's not working out. He was like, no. Well, hold on. And I look and over on the restaurant there's like fucking 6 people with their camera phones pressed against the glass, all recording. And I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be sweet because now, like, if you never ever really, you try to avoid doing anything physical outside of the ambulance because of how bad it looks. The people inside the restaurant don't know that dude is, can't form any, like, he's totally out there mentally. They don't see that part. All they see is like a bunch of paramedics and firefighters like fighting this dude, dragging him out of the car. So, they don't see the underlying stuff. So it's like, well, dude sits into his car. He's like, fuck you. I'm not doing anything. I'm not going anywhere, blah, blah, blah. Reaches over for his glove box. And I'm like, okay, dude. Like, and I fucking grabbed him, pulled him out. And it was like, and things got crazy. But it was one of the times where it was like, I had to second guess how I approached that call because of all the people in there recording. And that's a dangerous, dangerous situation because the thing is like, luckily he got to his glove box. I got to him just in time that he wasn't really, I don't think they found any weapons in the car, but had it been a weapon, he'd have probably killed me and one of the fire guys before they could even stop him.
Wow. Was PD there with you?
Yeah. And that was the thing. We were in close quarters. So like he was right next to me because I was standing in the car with him, or like the driver door was open. He was standing with like 1 foot kind of in the wheel well, or in the, like just half in the car, half out of the car. And I was standing there just talking to him and super cool, like no issues, and then all of a sudden he like sits down and reaches over. And it's like, yeah, so that situation where it's like, okay, well, this is going to look terrible. I'm going to end up on the damn news because I grabbed this guy by his face and pulled him out of the car. It's like, I exaggerate, but it's like I'm going to have to grab whatever I can of this dude and pull him out, and he's going to kick and scream and fight. And all of these people are going to be posting this shit on social and everything like that. And that was where I was like, you know what? Like, that was one thing that kind of was like, I got to get out of here, man. Shit's getting crazy. Like, if I can't protect myself and everybody around me adequately because of what it's going to look like.
There's so many rules that we put on first responders, man. Yeah. And the way that they respond to certain things.
Yeah. And they're finding out that a lot of them are, they're really, really bad. But I mean, and I get it. There are bad apples. There were bad paramedics. We had guys that we worked with that got caught stealing meds from patients and shit, like doing dumb shit. But then, there are other times where it's like it's 95% good, just like cops, And the thing is people don't realize like the behavioral health side is super neglected. And from whether paramedics and EMTs to firefighters to cops don't go in for behavioral health checkups. Like they really, most of the time, they don't really seek out help until either they've already killed themselves or they've attempted, and it's way more of a plaguing issue within that than people really give it, credit for. And that's the thing is like, oh, okay, well, defund the police. Like, okay, real smart, you assholes. Like, how about actually get them the help that they need? Because so burnout cops, if you're running, there are 15 calls at least in a 10-hour shift. I mean, a lot of them are cancels or whatever, but you think about
your stress level, because you don't know what the hell you're walking into, man.
Yeah, that dude could have had a gun in the glove box and could have shot me in the fucking chest and took out the dude next to me, my friend. And who knows what he would have hit going through us to the restaurant or whatever. And it's like, and I had to wait and formulate a decision because of how it was going to look on the internet. It's like, it's crazy. So you can't, let alone like the defund the police and then no behavioral health and no, like if you run most of the calls that we ran, you're not wanted there. Like the people don't want your help. Like you're going to, so that being said, it's like you run 7 or 8 asshole people every single day, 4 or 5 days a week for 20 years. You're gonna be a little, and plus you're going in on calls where babies are in microwaves and wild shit that people have no idea about that happens all the time. And it takes a toll. And that was what blew my mind. That was one of many things that happened during that 4-year period.
Got to be the hardest, right? Like,
big time. Yeah. And I've many times, like I would run arrests where I would find the kid dead in the crib, or it was, and I ran them all the time, and it was like, some things stick to you and some things don't. Like I went into it thinking, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Like I've got it. Like I've nothing. I'm pretty desensitized. Like I'm all right. You inevitably, because we were running hundreds and hundreds of calls a month, something finds its way in, and it like gets under your skin and just sits there. And then the next one kind of like, but it may not be every call, but inevitably you'll find one call that really like messes with you a little bit, and they get in, and then it digs, and then you get a little more bitter. You get a little more upset, and and then you run the next call, and then you have some dude tries to fucking bite you or actually does bite you, and then you're on antibiotics and you could get AIDS, like you go through the whole HIV exposure and hepatitis exposure and all of this, just trying to help people. And then people wonder why, like sometimes if you're going to act like an asshole and you're going to fight with the cop, they just say, fuck it, and slam you down on the ground and take you in. Like you get to the point where it's like, it's easier to just grab them. And it's like, cause everybody's innocent. Everybody didn't do anything. Everybody's, it's like, and eventually you get so burnt out that you snap, and you freak out. Like you hit somebody. With my partner, for example, like this is a crazy story. His wife had just passed. And this was the most I'm still to this day completely like, my mind is blown. He's got the most restraint of any human being that I've ever met in my life, because he had just come back. I think it was our second shift back after his wife passed. He took a couple months of bereavement and then came back to work. We're in the back of the ambulance, and we've got some chick just being a fucking complete asshole to him, saying all kinds of mean shit to him. And she, and this is like right after his wife, he was completely, fishy, madly in love with this. He put her picture up on the nightstand at the firehouse, like just, they were like tight. After he loses her, he comes back to work. We run this call. This chick's in the back of the ambulance talking mad shit to him, just being just wretched to him. And she starts going in on him. She sees his wedding ring and she was like, oh yeah. And she was like, oh, I see you've got, you're married or whatever. I bet your fucking wife loves you. And starts going in and just talking, like going in. I'm like, oh God. I drove that whole, because with paramedics, like because we were both paramedics, like one drives and one attends. I'm driving, but not looking at the road at all. I'm watching the rearview mirror, waiting for him to just fucking beat this chick into the stretcher. I'm like, oh God, I'm talking to him. I'm like, dude, like saying whatever I could to try and get that. Cause I'm like, he's a better man than I am. Cause I would have strangled that bitch.
Yeah.
And it's like, you want to, like, my wife just died and she didn't know, she didn't know, but he was wearing his wedding ring. And it's like, he showed the most restraint, more than anybody. Like I can't believe it. I still to this day have no idea how he didn't strangle that chick. And or just beat her to death in the back of the ambulance. Cause I don't know if I would have been able to stop. If somebody killed Tiffany and then 3 months later was talking shit, I'm going to prison. Right. I don't know, but I hope to be that strong.
That's just it. I mean, the men and women that do this job or do any sort of first responder job or military rather even, it's like we forget that there's a human element to it. Like they're not fucking robots, man. No. They're not gonna, and nobody's gonna act perfect, man. There's human error in everything, right? Like, so I think that's one of the first things that people need to accept is like, unless we want a bunch of fucking Elon Musk robots fucking policing us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, really, when it comes down to it, like that human interaction and like it's not the highest paid job out there. You can make a lot more money doing something else. Dude, so it's almost like these people that I've found. Well, look at Brian. Like all the options that he could have career paths that he could have went into.
He went into
after
the worst
being
time
a UFC vet and decides to be a Denver police officer in a high tempo area. Like
at the pretty much the worst time ever too.
We are so lucky. We are so lucky that there's people out there that like to do that job or
that still do it.
There to help people and still do it. Yeah.
Because when everybody hated him and everybody was against him and everybody was like, oh, the police are bad. This is off of a couple of bad apples. It was like with the whole George Floyd thing. Yes, he shouldn't have put him in that position. Yes, he shouldn't have stayed on him for that long. Like we were trained not to hogtie people, period, because of excited delirium, which is something like you hogtie somebody, they're high on drugs, they die. Like we were trained never to hogtie for that reason because they die. Like that happens. And that was a big chunk of what happened in that situation. And, but that was one situation, yes, there are a couple bad cops. Yes, there are things out there that are bad. And yes, I mean, that cop, it was not appropriate how he handled that call altogether. Yes, they didn't really factor in the heated crowd and everything, like, because there was a lot to that call that I think got that didn't really get noticed. But either way, shouldn't have been handled that way. Sweet. That's one dude. You have guys out there every day waking up, going to work, and going to protect you, whether you like it or not. Every single car they go up on could be the last car they ever go up on. Every shift could be the last time they ever like kiss their wife goodbye. And like, that's all. It's like, oh, Hollywood movie stuff. It's real shit.
Yeah.
It happens and people don't go home sometimes.
Well, and I think you bringing up the point of mental health and mental health checks, I think they need it more than ever. Like big even time. Above, and I'm not like comparing one to the other, but like even like military guys that are high active, like they get to go away from their deployment, right? Like cops a lot of times live in the same neighborhoods that they patrol and that sort of stuff. And like, we just had Graham Dunn in. Awesome guy. Spent 27 years in law enforcement, high level, like sergeant, SWAT for like 8 years, I think, or something like that. And he just recently wrote a book, which is awesome, man. I highly encourage anybody to go read it just so you can get a perspective of what the real shit that these guys have to deal with. Not what you see on TV. Because like the cop show, they're not showing you all the fucking like crazy shit. Like what you think you're watching on there is crazy. Yeah. Is not that crazy.
No.
Like go read Graham's book.
Serious.
But just the fact of like when he was writing his book, he's like, fuck man, I had this goal to get to so many words or X amount of pages or whatever it was. He's like, I kind of hit it like a roadblock. And he's like just driving back through the neighborhood with one of his sons or something. He was like, it just, all this PTSD in a good way came back up so he could write more. But just like, you think about it that way, I'm sure that there's times when you drive through Denver and you're like, fuck, I remember when this happened.
I remember areas like the Springs, especially, because I spent more time running 911 in the Springs than I did in Denver. I mean, all of the dirty, terrible things, like, what, like, the Springs is a bad place. And you don't know that unless you actually work it. And I think that's another thing.
Why do you think it's so bad? I know it was really bad a few years ago with like gang violence.
Yeah,
and
motorcycle gangs and stuff.
Were huge.
It's still like the Sons and all of those dudes are still out there.
Still
and
down
like,
there.
Yeah. I mean, I met some of them that were really super cool, that were, I mean, really nice, but then we would randomly show up to a house and there'd be some chick strangled to death upstairs and nobody would know. And there'd be like, I remember one I went out and like guys working on the car out in front and there's some chick dead in the bedroom upstairs and he's just working on his car. He's like, nothing happened. Like stone, like, and I just, man, like crazy stuff. But like the Springs had big city problems in a very, very small.
Plus you have the military element too, right? Like, I mean, there's some high level operators that train in that area and stuff. And it's like,
they weren't so bad, dude. They were just bar fights. That was it.
Yeah.
Like downtown Springs on the weekends, like you'd run a couple fights here and there, but they like the military wasn't too bad. I would say the biggest part with the military was the crotch rocket accidents, like the motorcycle accidents.
Oh my God.
That was probably because most like San Diego, a lot of places like that, but here too, it was like a lot of them had bikes and a lot of them wrecked them, and I mean, ran a bunch of DOAs and stuff like that on motorcycles. That was mostly vets. But I don't know, man. Cause like Pueblo, like was big in meth. I'm sure they probably still are. Like it was just a lot of drugs went through that whole area. And, but I don't know.
So crazy, man. It's such a beautiful, like Colorado Springs is an amazing city.
Yeah.
Like the view that they have of not Mount Evans, Pikes Peak, like just like, it's crazy. And then you have all the military presence there and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. It's sweet. Like NORAD's over there, but, like Manitou Incline, like Manitou is the coolest little city.
It's awesome.
Yeah, like it's so sweet. And like the Springs, I mean, it is a really pretty place, and you got mountains everywhere. Like it is a really cool place, but it's got a real dark underbelly. But the thing is, you drive through, you go to Manitou, you're cool. It's like, oh yeah, this place is sweet. Like I have friends that have moved out there and I hear some of the things that they say and I'm like, ugh, like I know where you're talking about. That's like, like,
right.
But you don't know,
well,
unless
I think
you do it.
people have blinders onto it a little bit too. I think you just look at what's going on in Denver right now. And I think it's any major metropolitan area is just,
it's crazy.
And then that's the thing. You start putting all these rules and the prime example of you trying to figure out how to handle a situation and knowing that you're being recorded. And now like almost all police officers wear body cams now.
Yeah.
Like you can't get around it. There's cameras everywhere. There's cameras on stoplights. We got cameras up here now.
Oh, dude, if you go into Denver Dispatch and you see like how many cameras are truly in Denver, it'll blow your mind. Like the whole city's under surveillance. Like it's everywhere. Wow. And then I have a bunch of buddies that are still on fire. Their body cams are like PD and fire because
does firefighters have body cams?
Some of them,
now?
I believe they do now. I think
Really?
Aurora has to have them. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but ultimately, I actually heard from Aurora Fire guy that it may have been the PD body cams. They kick on when they hear profanity or elevated, like there's cues now and they're always listening, and then they click on and start recording if they hear certain things too. So if you so it's like,
that's crazy. Brian was telling us about ShotSpotter that I had no idea.
Yeah.
So it's a gunshot detection deal in Denver.
And
he said it's super accurate. So there's a series of microphones that are set up in the Denver metropolitan area.
Huh.
And if a gunshot goes off, it'll tell them how many, and they can go back and listen to the recording before they get to the call.
No way.
To see how many shots were fired.
Wow. Yeah.
You got to listen to his podcast, dude. It was crazy. He told a wild story of him running up on like a scene of like 35 shots or something. He had to render aid to some people that were shot, and he was like, they didn't know where the shooter was at. Like fucking wild, dude.
Yeah.
So like that, and to make those split-second decisions too, I don't think people realize how fast it all goes down. I mean, it's a matter of seconds where you have to make these decisions.
Yeah.
Like,
in that situation, I was a little slow to grab him, and thank God he wasn't able to get to a weapon.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, because that could have been the end. And it's, you know, so the public played a big hand in demonizing law enforcement and first responders in general. And it's like, look, why don't we actually, instead of defund them, like, let's put money into behavioral health. Let's get these guys help before they need it. You know, like, let's check in with them. Because one of the things I was thinking about before, because I saw a therapist for a couple of years, and it was expensive. It's crazy how expensive behavioral health, like in just therapy in general, is when everybody could benefit.
It's one thing that insurance doesn't really cover too, right? It's kind of like,
or they'll do it.
There's so many variables to it.
Yeah. And if they do cover it, you get like a really shitty pool of therapists that are like my therapist, her name's Heather McQueen. She has like, she's a doctor. Like she actually has, and she has her master's, she has her PhD, she's extremely well educated, and you won't find that for the like $20 copay insurance, you know, therapists. It's like they're just bachelor's degree people that get out of school and do whatever they have to do, and then not somebody like her. But the stuff that I learned from her and the things that I was able to unpack and I was able to kind of deal with was huge. And that's one of the ideas that I was thinking about with you when I was when I talked to you a couple weeks ago was like, man, you know, like it would be fun to she has some stories.
Oh, I'd love to have her on,
dude.
If she was willing to be a guest,
yeah, it would. And actually, too, like I almost hit you up to see if I could come with, like if we could both come up.
Well, let's do it next time.
And
yeah.
Oh, dude, that would be cool because it's like I don't know if she would do it or not. I haven't talked to her about it yet, but I think bringing light to how beneficial therapy can be, from relationships to how you walk through society, like, because there's a stigma on it, and it's like, oh, dude, okay, like it's the normal stigma, like weakness and all of that stuff, but it's like, you know what, like a lot of this stuff, you know, it's like, okay, well, I'm super reactive, you know, it's like from my sport, I'm quick to react with, you know, I'm not violent or anything, but it's like, you know, you get trained to, somebody kicks you kick them back twice as hard. You know, somebody hits you, you want to end up finding another way to get back and hit them and hurt them worse. That can kind of bleed off into like, girlfriend says something crazy, you say something back that's worse. And then it just, you know, and it's like, you can learn how to navigate a lot of that stuff with a therapist. And there's a million other things, but one of the bigger things would be law enforcement. And it's like getting them in.
Well,
earlier.
I'm kind of trying to navigate it here because I never have an agenda when I come in here, but it was something that's like, I guess why I paid so much attention to it is honestly, it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time, is like shed a light on what some of these people go through on a day-to-day basis. And I totally forgot that you were even a paramedic before we started talking about it today. I remember you saying that last time. Mm-hmm. So this has been a heavy like first responder month, which is rad.
Yeah.
But it was like, I kind of like caught up at the end of the year. And I was like, shit, I got all the stuff I want to do, or I said I was going to do, and I haven't done it. So I'm like trying to cram it all in. So I had Brian on and stuff. But I just think that there's so many stories to be told. There's so many ways to help people that can happen right here at this table. Is one thing that I've noticed, right? Like, in just some of the conversations that I have. And not only that, help myself is more to be more greedy. It's to help myself too and have a better perspective. And that, like, this past month has changed my perspective on law enforcement a ton. Like, reading Graham's book has changed my perspective on law enforcement.
Yeah.
There's a ton of stuff that I think could be done for the better to help them. And I think it all starts with shedding on a light on what people actually go through, right? Yeah. And it's not something like, I'm sure like it's hard to talk about, you know, so Graham writing that book, like we didn't even touch on a tenth of some of his fucking stories are wild, dude.
Yeah. Oh,
and we didn't even touch a tenth of it, you know,
yeah.
because I don't feel comfortable asking.
Yeah.
It's insulting to ask those sort of questions, you know, like.
Yeah, it's the same thing you do with vets. It's like you don't ask, like,
Yeah. You don't ask those stupid questions. How many people did you kill?
Right.
How many
like,
dead people did you see? Or like, you know what I mean? It's like
stupid.
Yeah, you would never ask your friend or anybody else that sort of fashion. But yeah, I'm big on that, man. Like suicide, domestic violence, you know, first responders, mental health. It's all stuff that is just kind of like brushed under the blanket, and it affects everybody. Everybody.
Well, and that was the biggest part. It's like, okay, well, I keep going back to the whole defund thing because that blew my mind because you're taking funds away from people that actually need it, and to get past the stigma of therapy and say, hey, look, like everything may be cool. You know, you may feel fine now, but like, hey, let's go over a couple of your last calls. Like, let's, was something, did something bug you? Being able to take that out of your backpack and just get rid of it, even if you don't, and do it ahead of time versus waiting until it's like, okay, now
until it's a real problem.
Yeah, until you strangle somebody in an alley. And then you're like, oh, Jesus, like what? Like, because sometimes you freak. And I got to the point, it happened quick with me because we got run so hard where it's like I started to get compassion fatigue, and I started to get a lot of these like kind of more, I thought they were silly terms at first. I'm like, Jesus, really, like compassion fatigue, until I really was like, okay, cool. Like there's somebody here that I'm over it. It's like, get in the back of the ambulance. I need to get this done. I'm going to chart the whole way, sit in the stretcher. You don't need me. You're like, just get in. I'm taking you to the hospital, and just shut up. And it's like when, that's not the way to handle it, but it was like,
and you're experiencing somebody in their worst day of their life, probably, right? That they've experienced, or one of them.
Yeah. The only time you go on anything the only time people call 911 is typically their worst day ever, and whether it's worst to you because of everything you've seen, like it's their worst day. And when you start to lose sight of that, and lose the compassion, to lose the like, okay, look, this may be completely stupid. Like I may think this is dumb as hell, and I'm just, like, come on,
Well,
but
I think that happens in anything though. Like I find myself sometimes having a normal conversation isn't enough for me anymore because I have so many savages that sit across from me, and we talk about stuff like this, and we talk about it openly, and it's like there's no distractions, and sometimes just having a normal conversation, I get like bored and I start like dazing off. You know what I mean? It's like, that's your story, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I just think it's whatever you're exposed to, man. It's like,
yeah, because we get used to it, but you lose sight of like, if you lose touch with humanity and it's just, you become numb to it. Mm-hmm. It's not good for anybody, and you're not doing anybody a service. And that was one of like many things that I kind of factored into like, I got to get off. Like, I got to get off the rig. Like, I got to get out of here. Like, because I love medicine and I miss it all the time. But it's just, especially now where they're demonized, and like, because we were getting shot at as paramedics. Like, people would shoot at us. There were posts we couldn't go to in Denver because they would shoot at us.
That's crazy.
There were places where we knew they would trap us if we went in. They were like certain places we couldn't go without PD. I mean, and the layperson doesn't know that. They think, oh, well, they see what's on the news, and it's like, oh, things are really bad, or oh, this is that. But it's like, I mean, Brian runs probably upward of 12 to 15 calls a day, and probably 8 to 10 of them are really shitty situations, and they don't factor that in. It's all just, you see the one bad apple cop, and it's like, oh, all the police are bad, blah, 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 and it's nobody factors in all the bullshit that led up to that point to make that person
100%.
do that.
And I think the other thing too is the media is one of the main culprits of that demonizing, because like even if somebody's doing something wrong, but then the police show up to help solve the problem or help save somebody or whatever, and they do something wrong, nobody ever talks about that criminal doing the thing wrong in the first place, or why they were called, or whatever, right? It's always the cop's fault.
Always, every single time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a pretty big problem, and that made me pretty happy to be off, even though like I love medicine. Like my girlfriend's a respiratory therapist. She's, in a level 1 trauma center. She's at St. Anthony's. Like I came up in St. Anthony's, which was kind of funny. Like every single medical cert that I took for the most part outside of my advanced scope of practice was at St. Anthony's. So like I've got Flight for Life license plates. Like I've been, ride or die St. Anthony's. And it's funny because she's worked there for a couple of years now.
Oh,
and like,
really?
it was pretty cool that all of them kind of came together. But I hear her stories too. And she was actually she had just gotten out of school when COVID started.
That's right.
And she went through the worst of all of that.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about it on here. That is insane, man.
The biggest, most insane
How
part
big
about
was the turnover?
People were burning out like crazy. Like it was really, like they did get ground, like driven into the ground big time. Like they were losing people. It depends. I mean, I would say probably it was the vaccine shit that hemorrhaged probably more people, I think. But because they made it really, they didn't force you, but they made it impossible to work. And they fired you if you didn't get vaccinated at the hospital or if you didn't find religious exemption. Mm-hmm. But the thing was, like, seeing how, like when we were talking about the media demonizing the police and stuff like that, well, they also did the same thing for COVID. And it was like, they would say, oh, well, there were 2 COVID patients, yesterday, and there was one the day before. That's 100% increase in, hospital admissions for COVID. It's like, no, you prick. Like that's 2 people.
Right.
And it's like, but nobody else saw that. It was like, I saw that through Tiffany and through like, cause she was in respiratory, like, especially she was on Flex, which is like a bunch of RTs that bounce hospital to hospital. So she wasn't like strictly St. Anthony's. She was Littleton and Parker and all over. But because she was travel and she got paid a little more, they put her in the actual, like they had floors essentially that were just all COVID patients, and she worked those pretty much exclusively. And the thing is she's seeing this firsthand at all the different hospitals in Colorado. And she's also seeing what's on the news and what's on social media and everything. And it's like it was every day. It's like, hey, like they're lying. This isn't how it's happening. Like this isn't what's going on. Like there was so much bullshit that polarized everybody against each other for no reason. Like, yes, people did die.
It's crazy, man, because I don't watch the local news, but I sure the fuck was then. I was tuning in like, is the mandate over? Or is it like when you go into a lockdown, it's like you want to know what's going on?
Bro, the first 2 weeks, like we were all scared.
And who do you rely on,
Yeah. It's like we were all like super nervous I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, I went from a fight camp. I got sick.
You were supposed to fight Jokic's brother or something, right?
Yeah, bro.
Is he still fighting?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
But I was supposed to fight him, and then that fell through, and then like Sean Madden over at Easton, he sent me home. He was like, because I was super sick. Came back. I think I hit pads once after taking 3 or 4 days to get better. And then bam, everything shut down and the lockdowns came. And then they canceled all of it. And then we were like full on like lockdown, like the weirdest zombie apocalypse shit. I'll never ever forget driving down the highway and being the only person on the highway. And it's like,
it's crazy.
Wild.
I was
shit.
spending all my time in the mountains up here, dude.
Yeah.
Like I-70, like,
oh yeah,
forget about it. It was awesome, dude.
Yeah, no traffic. Like,
God, yeah,
that was crazy. But
it was really, I mean, the catalyst for us. This thing really taken off.
Right on, yeah.
Because I had built the studio right before we went into lockdowns,
man. Yeah.
And then we had like 1 or 2, I was supposed to do my first episode, so it was right after the lockdown. Like I finally got somebody to say yes.
Yeah,
and the intention of the podcast was totally different. I had like Parks and Wildlife signed up. Was going to be the first episode. And then Alpine Search and Rescue was going to be all like mountain
sweet
type stuff. And then it just turned into this. Now I just hang out and bullshit. It's awesome. It's crazy. This is the last episode of the year too, man.
Yeah, I'm grateful.
It's gone by so fast, man. So fast.
Yeah, you guys are doing well, man. I love it. I love seeing it. Like, I've always loved seeing people like, speaking of like Chris, for example, Kamosi, it's like,
yeah, let's go.
Dude is thriving, and it's like, I've never been more happy for somebody, because it's like, I've been friends with him for so long that it's like, I've watched him go through the relationship situation, and then, leaving Factory X, and then like all of this stuff. And then he finds Whitney, and like, what a combo, bro. She's so cool. And like
she's awesome.
Like, what a complimentary pair. Like, cause I mean, then he's just a G. He blew up. Now he's thriving. He's working in commercial real estate, like doing well at that, wins the title for bare knuckle, like, which is crazy. Cause it's like, it wasn't even his sport. He was like, I mean, he went from MMA to kickboxing and was smashing people in glory. And then all of a sudden, bare knuckle came around, and look at what he's done.
It's built for him, man.
It is. I knew too, bro. I was like, that's totally his thing.
So rad, yeah.
Like, thriving.
He's
bro.
become a really good friend. He's a really good dude. Just like genuinely a good person, man.
Fantastic human being.
I think a lot of fighters get that stigma too. Like, they're just fucking, people are scared to talk to him. Like, that guy could kick my ass, like that sort of thing. Chris is like, he could.
Oh, he could do a lot of damage quickly.
But he's the furthest thing from that, is like a scary, as much as he is a scary individual, he's like one of the biggest sweethearts in the world.
Big time.
It's like, I think that's why I like having fighters on so much and have forged so many relationships. They're just fucking the honesty, dude.
Yeah.
Like you included.
Right on. Thank you.
Yeah.
We all looked up to him. We still look up to him. I still do, even when through this whole navigating like what I want to do and my purpose and stuff like that. It's like, it's nice to draw off of guys like that, where it's like, he's just crushing it. He's crushing it in a sport that, wasn't, I mean, he could box, but it was like, he'd never fought bare knuckle before that. And then, now a couple fights later, he's, world champion. Like,
holding the belt.
Bro, like, it's awesome. And that was so good to see him, do that. And I think you had, like, Brandon Royval was another dude that I think you've had him on here too, haven't you?
Yeah, we had him on at the beginning of last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I'm so lucky, man. We've had so many just savages say yes, man. Like, it wouldn't be possible. Like, our growth is possible because of them saying yes and coming in and hanging out, and you included, man. Yeah. It's fucking awesome.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
What is kind of the next evolution for you? Or I know you're navigating some stuff right now with the hip and
man,
that sort of stuff, and just
I've been kicking for the last couple weeks now, finally, and I feel sweet. Like, the hip is still a little like upset, but ultimately, like, I'm back to kicking, I'm back to sprinting, I'm back to, like, I'm doing everything again. So I'm good. Like, I'm in the very tail end of that bullshit drama of 2 months. So I don't know, bro. Like, I want to fight. Like, the thing that I struggle with most right now is, when I first started kickboxing, I did it as just it was for fun. Like, I didn't even plan on going pro. I was like, you know what? I just want to do it. I love it. I love Thai boxing. Like, where can it, I didn't know it would take me anywhere. I sure as hell didn't know it would land me in places like this, or like with friends, like,
or Chris in an ice ring.
Right? That's what I was going to say, with like Scott Parker.
Is ice sports still a thing? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
So it was funny because
are they still going?
Their owner liked one of my pictures the other day, and he's super good dude. I think he got sick.
Oh, that's a bummer.
And yeah, man. So, and I think he got sick, and then they shelved it. And I think all of those dudes are back in season right now. But Clem actually sent me a post, because I've been kind of taking a little bit of time away from Instagram, just kind of not opening it as much. He sent me a picture of, it was a bare knuckle logo and an Ice Wars logo together on the same thing, and that one of them had posted on their story. So I'm like, that could be the next evolution. I don't know. I thought it was bare knuckle originally, because it was Chris that set me up with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Kamosi hit me up and was like, dude, you want to do this? I was like, fuck yeah, I do. Like, let's go. I'm like, I'm not doing anything else. I might as well. I thought it was bare knuckle then. And then it was MMA gloves. And I was like, oh, that's even more like done deal, bro, which is good, because half my face got torn off. But
yeah, that was wild, man.
First
that was a wild
fucking
event.
punch too, man. I'm like, and that was a good, like, it was a lot of fun. But so they could come back. I don't know. I haven't talked to Charlie in a little bit, but really hope he's doing well if it was like an actual like issue.
Yeah, me too.
Health-wise.
We actually, when Scott was in here, I think Charlie came in with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Super nice dude. Like really cool. Like everybody with that organization was great. Like, so it's tough because so I started not anticipating any of that. And then now it's like, it's become who I am. Like I'm a fighter now, and it's like, that's how people know me. And it's like everywhere like I'm not like, high, like people don't really recognize me a whole lot, but like the people I do run into, they're like, bro, when are you fighting again? When are you fighting again? Like, what's going on? And it's like, I've been to Thailand twice, struck out both times, came back early this last time, thinking that I'd be able to fight here because they couldn't get me any fights out there. Got back here, nothing. I had even offered for like Sparta and those guys, I said, I'll buy 40 tickets. Like, because there was, from what I had heard, they were pissed at me because I didn't sell tickets, because part of it, to be honest, I was kind of nervous. Like I didn't know, I wanted to focus all of my effort on the fight camp. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't want to be selling tickets and stuff, but really that's a big part of it.
Do they obligate you to?
Well, this is the thing. You get into my situation, I think eventually, where if you don't sell enough tickets consistently, they never they just completely write you off. But I don't know if that's true or not. So on one hand, they were having to pay to fly, like they were having to fly people in to fight me pretty early on, even as an amateur, because nobody would fight me. Mm-hmm. It cost them money. And then I didn't sell a whole bunch of tickets. And then I think that may have grown some animosity. And then, it was like, this is all speculation because I can't figure out why. So then recently I came back from Thailand, was like, look, if you're pissed at me about ticket sales, I'll buy 40 tickets from you right now. I'll give you cash. Like I'll buy them straight up. If I don't sell them,
you only got to buy
me.
39, dude. I'll buy one.
Thank you, bro. And I'm like, I'll buy those, and I'll add $300 to their purse. If they show up, they make weight, they fight, I'll give them $300. Even if they beat the fuck out of me, I'll give them $300, like straight up, like just for coming out to fight. Crickets. Nothing, bro. Really? Like absolutely nothing. And
what about some of these other organizations like ONE FC or something like that? What?
So the guy that I'm working with right now, he fought for ONE, and I'm hitting with him 4 times a week right now, every morning. And the goal was ultimately, like we were hoping, because there's a big promotion down in Mexico, in Tulum, and they have cards in Mexico City. They have all over there.
Crazy organization. It's badass.
Yeah, it's sweet. And I think it's Rumble in the Jungle, I think is what it's called. And the goal was to go down there. Like you can actually find WBC ranked fights down there. And I was like, sweet, like let's go. Like, because we're only like 2,000 feet lower than, because I had no idea that Mexico City is like 7,000 feet.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
So we're already like here. All I'd have to do is go to Vail or something and train
up
there.
Come up here, dude.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's much
same elevation, really.
Really? Okay. Yeah. So like, we were talking about doing that, and we've got some stuff. Like we were gearing up. We were starting to look, and then my hip issue came. So now it's like I'm just kind of with the injuries and stuff like that. And then I got cleaned up at hockey, and like
You're still playing hockey?
Oh yeah, bro. Yeah. Like I'm like obsessed. Like I love that sport.
You're a maniac, dude.
But
I love it.
Yeah, dude, like this guy, like I'm skating up the ice, I hit the puck off the boards, this fucking dude just crushes me. And the thing is like, I mean, he hit me hard. Like he hit me so hard I wasn't even mad at him for it, because it was just such a clean, nasty like hit. But the thing is he hit me. I spun and hit the boards at fucking full speed. And I hit the bottom of the boards, but my shin guard had slipped down, and it ground up over my kneecap, and I thought it tore the head of my quad off. I thought it tore, like, because I'm like, so he hits me, I hit the boards, everybody goes crazy. I like skate one-legged back to the bench to get off the ice, and I was feeling under my knee, like under my shin guard, and I thought the fucking head of my quad was torn off. And I ended up... It's healed. Like, thank God. I mean, the peptides I think may have helped with that too, because this was a bad one. Because the thing was, the hit was one thing, but hitting the boards at 500 miles an hour, And then
hockey's crazy, dude.
Oh, it was crazy.
Do you know Daniel Amesbury?
I haven't met him, bro.
He's fucking awesome.
One
man.
degree of separation all the time. Like they wanted, because they were wanting him to come back for Ice Wars when we were all in it, and they were telling me like, hey, like go on social and talk some shit. And because I'm like, okay, I'll fight him. I don't care. Like, but I'm like, I'm also not like, that's just not me. Like, right. I don't go on the internet running my mouth. So I was like, I'm like, first off, let's see if I can actually do this first. Like, because this isn't my sport. Like, I can fight, but like, and not to mention, like,
you throw ice and skates and everything else on. So it's like different thing than kickboxing.
Well, and like, I play hockey, you know, nonstop. I've been playing for a long time, but I'm not at their level, let alone like the dude that I fought right out of the gate that had freaking over 100.
He won the whole thing.
Yeah, he beat the shit out of everybody. He slept everybody after me. and like still it was crazy. It blows my mind that even like at the end when he won, he still like shouted me out. I mean, the coolest dude ever.
Well, there's just wild. That was wild because there's no weight classes or anything, and you got dudes in there that are 300 plus pounds. Like fucking, it was wild.
Like hanging teepees the week before.
Shout out to Chief Big Snake, dude. We've talked about him a couple times.
He's such a cool, and he was the nicest guy you could ever meet. But it's like if anybody watches like Letterkenny or anything like that.
I should have him on the podcast, dude. I should have hit him up.
He's super cool. Yeah. I mean, anybody who's watched Letterkenny knows like they would get like the native flu is what they'd call it. And it was those dudes, like they had hockey teams where in Canada, like if in Letterkenny, whenever the team would come down to play them, if it was all natives, like all the dudes on the other team would get sick.
Oh, and right.
Because they were just dudes like Big Snake that were just like, native they were flu. Horrifying. Yeah.
Oh
like,
God, dude, that guy was like 8 foot tall on skates.
Huge, bro. And like 360 some odd pounds, I think, or something crazy. It's like, yeah. And Ryan beat his ass.
Yeah, no, it was wild, man.
Yeah, like it's super.
That's a wild sport. It is a wild sport. I hope they bring it back, man. It was good.
I think it may. From based on that post, they will, and I know like if Charlie can, he will, and so that would be fun. But right now, I think the biggest thing is I really just want to fight in my sport.
Yeah,
and that's it. And it's like I don't ask for much. Like the struggle with
what other kickboxing organizations are around right now? Are there?
There's a bunch of little ones. It's like
I feel like we need to make it like it needs to be more popular, man. Like
I'm shocked that it isn't, and I think it is starting. Like you know what's crazy though? So I went to see one when they were here in Denver.
How was that,
bro? It was the most people I've ever seen for Thai fights in my entire life. Like it was really, really cool to see.
I was supposed to go, I didn't end up making it.
But. Really? Yeah, dude, it was, I mean, the stadium was packed and they were there for Thai boxing, which was cool as hell because before, like nobody showed up for Thai boxing, like at all. Like it was barely, like when I first started, it was like, I knew I was never going to make money. I knew like it was, low attendance, like nobody, and now it's blown up and it's awesome. So, I remember when you were talking about with Brian, like Legacy Kickboxing was one that was around. They merged and they're gone. Bellator Kickboxing was a thing. They're gone.
Glory's gone. Right?
Glory is all overseas now.
That was huge.
Well, and that's the thing. My gym in Samui in Thailand, Robbie Timmers is the owner of that gym, and he is the main like promoter and matchmaker for Glory. And like I had a lot of interaction with him. And like he saw me train, like because he was in Samui when I was out there, and he bounces between there and the Netherlands because they're not even doing any U.S.
I wish the UFC would do something with it. There
was rumor that they might start looking into it eventually
because they have their hand in jiu-jitsu right now.
Well, and that's the thing, because like with the ONE FC cards, they'll have a jiu-jitsu match, and then they'll have a Thai fight, and then
that's
they'll have
the coolest
MMA.
thing about it. They're amazing to watch, man.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
And they're putting it on a huge platform, and I think the public is finally realizing how legit Thai boxing is, because they, it takes no time at all at the UFC. You get somebody against the cage, they start booing. Like almost, I feel like it takes no time at all for them to start doing that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, then watch Muay Thai. Like you can't hold. You can't, like when you're clinching, you're trying to kill the other person with elbows or knees. Like there's no stalling. There's no like.
Oh, it's so exciting to watch, man.
And they can do what one did because the Y Crew, the like ceremonial dance that happens before the fight, like one removed that, and they'll do it sometimes on their Bangkok cards, but like ultimately like that's a big like lull in the excitement factor. And it's like, okay, you can take that away from it and you can do what one's doing where they just normal walkout, normal like kind of how we do things here. And it's exciting. It's insane. Like, and they're throwing, and then they added little gloves to it, and it's wild as hell.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's catching on. So there's more promotions, and I think for timeline.
Well, if there's anything locally or anything that I can help plug here, I'd like to, man. I'd like to come to it too. A lot of times I just don't know. It's like shit's already gone past. I'm like seeing it on somebody's Instagram. I'm like, fuck, I should have went to that. Or
Yeah, I mean, one was sweet, and it was really cool.
Is LFA an option for you or anything like that? Or,
no, they're all MMA. Yeah.
You're just staying away from MMA.
Yeah, I don't do jiu-jitsu. I never have. So, like, it was because, like, right now, my weight class, like Dustin, Jacoby, he's smashing everybody in the 205 division. Yeah.
I love Dustin.
He's
another
like,
great guy.
Yeah, super smart. I was super so I listened to the podcast though, and I was like, it like stabbed me in the side because he was telling the truth, which sucks even worse because he was like, yeah, he said great things about
the podcast that we did. Oh, okay.
But he was like, he was a little soft at first, and I was like, but I was a bitch out of the gate, and it was like, but they threw me in with him and Chris and everybody else. I'm like, what do you expect?
Lion's Den.
Yeah,
bro.
man. Like there was never I had never had an easy round ever.
Yeah.
In like the 6 or 7 years there, it was like never.
I don't even remember bringing you up on. It's been a while since I had him in. I need to get him back in.
Yeah.
We've been talking a little bit. He's busy.
Yeah.
Especially after his last win, man. That was crazy.
Laser
Didn't he rip his
hand.
whole fucking toe off or some shit? Or?
I saw something about that going. That dude's always got something.
Yeah.
Like I feel like in the Sparta card here where he won King of Sparta, he had like broke his shin and he's had his arm broken with kicks. Like, but I mean, he still finished. It's like the dude, the second time he got his arm broken, he finished.
A natural athlete too. Like I invited him up to the bow range because he was hitting me up, and finally I hit him up one day. And I was like, hey dude, I'm headed up to the bow range if you want to go. And we went, and he showed up. Like, this, no disrespect, Dustin, but like he hadn't like shot his bow in a while. He's got a nice bow, had like 2 arrows. I think he ended up shooting like some of my arrows because he wasn't like really set up, and you have to be pretty fucking dialed in to go to this archery range.
Really?
Like,
yeah.
It's cliff shots and like up and downhill, and you have to range find stuff. And he brought his like golf range finder with him.
Really? Yeah.
So, but dude, I think he shot like 10 points right behind me, dude. Yeah. And I mean, not like we were shooting from the back stakes, like he shot really, really well, dude. For shooting like I shoot a lot. Yeah. And he crushed it up there.
He's a talented dude, and like cerebral wise too. Like because he's smart, like he's smart and athletic, and like, I mean, he's a bad dude, you know. And that laser right hand that he hit that guy with this last go round, like
so cool.
Because it was tough because I could see like the first couple.
Dude, I
rounds.
was like jumping around in my living room, dude. That's how excited that one made me. I was like,
because it came out of nowhere. Because it sucked because you could tell like that guy was big as fuck and powerful. Like that guy was how I imagined like 205ers.
That
really,
whole
like,
division, man, is just insane. There's so much power and just talent there.
Yeah, and you could tell like he saw like that dude hit hard, and it's rare to see Dustin like pace himself, and because like I think in the press conference after whatever, because I haven't talked to him in a minute, but I saw the little press conference clip going around, and it's like he was smart because people were booing him because they weren't throwing. Yeah, but they don't realize like. In little gloves,
and that's
like
what he's known for, is just going ham, right?
He throws,
like,
yeah. And there he is. Yeah, is this the right hand? Yep. I mean,
dude,
set him.
So awesome.
It was nasty, and just set him up. I mean, you could tell what he's doing, and I saw like, I was watching him like kind of lull it out, and I saw him, and he was seeing his hands. He was drawing his hands away from his face, and I was like, ooh, he's gonna get him because he threw that feint. And then as soon as that dude pawed, right down the pipe he came. And I mean,
such a clean knockout, man. That was awesome.
And like Dustin's always been a dude that like he there are just some people in the world that hit hard. Like they're very like, there's just something about how they throw. It's effortless and it just hurts. And like everything he throws, like, cause some people it's like, they'll hit you and it's like, okay. But like some people just hurt. And he's one of them. Like you can just tell, but a clean shot like that.
I mean, you look at his career and who he's fought too. I mean, he fought Alex Bajeda in Glory.
Yeah.
Like, I hope he gets another shot.
And that's another dude that has like, that just hits everything hard. Doesn't look fantastic on pads. Like you see him, it's like, he's very like chill and loose. But like when you look at like technical form, you can shred him to pieces watching him hit pads until he puts his hands on you. And then until he lands some shit. And it's like, cause he was actually, I didn't get to work with him, but he came to Samui right after I came home. Yeah. Right and, I mean, he just touches you and goodbye, you know, and there are just some people like that, he just has rock hands and let alone lining you up clean. And that's the thing about Dustin, I feel like, is he's so sharp and so like mentally with it that
it's been a good year. Everybody's winning, dude.
It's great, bro. I'm so pumped for like, cause
like all of our boys are winning.
Yeah. Look at
Trump's back in office, dude.
Let's go, bro. 22 days to freedom.
Yeah.
And I stay really quiet about that on social media. My girlfriend is a machine. Like some of the arguments she gets in online, I'm like, Jesus Christ. God. Like it's
the popular thing now. Now you're on the popular side.
She is, oh man, right? Yeah, exactly. Now all this Time Magazine, like Man of the Year or whatever. Like, fuck you people. Like, give me a break.
It'll all change. Like, watch. Yeah. January, 28th or whatever we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, but what a dream team, and it's like, I stay out of the politics on social media. Like I don't talk about it to them, but it's like, I'm not like diehard Trump or diehard, anybody. I really just want things to go well. I want law to be enforced. I want things to be calm, and I want the economy to keep growing, and I want everybody taken care of. And what a dream team. Like,
that's crazy.
Elon
you
Musk.
Want all of that?
Great. I know, right? Like healthy food.
Why would you want that?
I don't know. Like,
so
who wants
that's the problem
food?
with the other side. It's like, or this ideology is just like not. I mean, it's just fucking common sense, man.
It is. And they still, no matter what, are so polarized that they will look you in the face and say, like, we were talking about this the other day. It's like, I wonder, because we were at the mall and there was somebody, like, there were a bunch, like, a handful of people here and there in masks. And it's like, we went into the little coffee shop inside Cherry Creek Mall. And I remember when I went in there without a mask in the beginning, they were fucking wretched to me, like nasty, because I wasn't in a mask. And
at like the height of COVID,
it was after like a couple months of COVID starting. Okay. So it was like I was in the bad time of like, I was like, fuck you people. Like, first off, like the whole mask thing you're selling is bullshit. Like, if anything, everybody should be in, you're not going to be able to mask everybody. We should have the right to choose all of that stuff. But I went into this coffee shop. They were super mean. And then I ended up getting chased around by security, and they ran me out of the mall ultimately because I wasn't wearing a mask. And we were talking about it, and it's like, I wonder if those people look in the mirror at night, the people that were fucking wretched to me in the coffee shop and that were mean, and they look in the mirror and say, you know what, like, I was lied to.
Well, I think a lot of people have. They either forget about it, but I think that's why we've had this drastic swing to where Trump was the evilest thing in the fucking world, and then all of a sudden he got the popular vote by a fucking landslide, dude.
Yeah.
Like, the wool was kind of pulled off of people's eyes a little bit. You know what I mean? So. Like, it's proven. I think it
that makes sense,
man. And I think people are excited for, I mean, if you look at what this last, 4 years prior to this was, and what we accomplished in this country, it was nothing really good.
No,
I can't really think of one good thing.
No, nothing at all. We
went
backwards.
It's crazy. Like, I was just listening, not to make this a political thing, and I don't even know if you want to get into this, but I was just seeing yesterday that like all the border wall stuff that Trump had purchased 6 years ago, they're like turning around and selling it before he gets into office. Like, there's just all kinds of crazy.
What kind of underhanded shit? Like, what is that going to, like, because I actually saw something on Twitter or X or whatever saying that those people are actually going to sell it back to Trump now, I think, for what they paid.
That's crazy.
What, but like,
Texas is buying a bunch of it.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. Because
who's buying a bunch of it?
Some dude in Texas or
somebody.
It's going from Arizona to Texas and then
back.
Good. But
yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah.
Shit.
But like, seriously, like how petty.
Well, it's just like at what point we're just screwing ourselves over and over and over again. And it always seems to be a money grab, right? No matter what it is, it's always has some sort of money or something involved. And this is just the simplest form of it, right? We're talking about building materials for something that Trump wants to put in place.
Yeah. Something that's clearly a problem right now.
100%.
That nobody will admit, but it is clearly a problem.
I think a majority of people are admitting it now, though, right? I think by their vote.
Yeah, that's true. That would make sense, you know?
I think that people realize, like, I mean, I've seen it here firsthand.
Yeah. I mean, well, and that was the thing, the apartments in Aurora and everything that everybody, there are people out there that were like, oh, no, that's true. That's not true. I live in Aurora, blah, blah, blah. It's like, have you been to the apartments? Like, have you ever worked any sort of like 911 system? Have you been out there? Like I play hockey with Aurora Fire guys that were like, shit is bad. And like, it is real. Like it's real.
So my daughter dances all over Denver, you know, for different ballet companies and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I just told them, my wife and her straight up was like, you guys cannot go to Aurora or like, just don't go.
Yeah. I mean, it's way too dangerous.
There's no reason for you to be out there. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's gotten so bad.
But that's so close. That's a stone's throw from here. It could easily happen here. I mean, I saw it here in Jefferson County firsthand is where I saw some sort of illegal migrant activity going on with guns.
Yeah, you said, and it was out in the forest, wasn't you?
I was
like out in the woods. Yeah.
I was elk hunting. I think I've told the story. I did tell the story on here a couple podcasts ago, but yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
And but people will still go on social media and say that you're wrong and that it doesn't exist, even though you've seen it firsthand. And it's like, what is wrong? Like, it's everybody's just so polarized, and like, why can't we just come together and fix these issues? You know, there's a way to fix them, but then it's like, oh, you know, Trump's going to get rid of everybody and all the dreamers and everything else. It's like, I'm not 100% certain, but I think I know people that were on DACA that didn't go anywhere when Trump was in office, and they're still here. And I'm like, it's not like the whole world is going to come crashing down.
A ton of fighters, right? I'm sure.
Yeah, there's like, well, one of them was a girl that I knew that she was a receptionist at my apartment building, or she was the concierge. And she was a dreamer, and she's still here, you know? And it's like, not on Inauguration Day, they're not going to just deport every single person that even legal, like lawful green card
well, just
holding
the money
citizens.
To do that would be insane.
But it's blown, it's so wrong, and it's just a ploy to make people hate him. And it's like, I'm not a huge supporter either way. Like, technically with my company, when Trump came into office, like the tariffs hurt me big time.
Oh, I bet.
Because at that point, all of my cabinets, I was getting them from manufacturing plants in China. And because I am kind of part of the problem on that whole front, because it was, my competitors were selling the cabinets for way cheaper than what I was selling domestic products for, and I was getting murdered. I could not make money.
Yeah, no, it's the system that needs to be corrected, right? Like,
and the tariffs got me right out of the gate. When he got elected, they put a 265% tariff on China on that plant. And that made everybody either move or jump ship, and they went to Vietnam and Thailand and Malaysia. And we got hit on our side with a 35% upcharge on all of our products. So that was the thing. So when everybody's like, oh, you know, because the tariffs actually just got passed on, because when I got hit for 35%, that took most of my margin. So it was like, well, I'm going to have to increase my prices to survive, which guess who pays that? Mm-hmm. Everyone here. So like, there are good
I think
and
it
bad
even
things.
happened in the food industry, because
we
import
everywhere.
So much food, and just like, it's insane.
Yeah. So I would sell domestic cabinets if I could get them in a reasonable time frame, because right now I do carry a domestic line.
Here's the thing too, man. People are fucking hurting, man. Like, it is not easy to come by money these days, dude. So like, people don't have the extra money to fucking
pay 4 times as much. For like, I mean,
maybe a very, very small percentage maybe has that money.
Yeah.
Like
because
4% of the population. Yeah,
they're still buying. You know, we still sell our domestic line here and there, but I mean, the cabinet that I would sell you for $250 to under $500 here is going to be $1,000 to $1,500 there, and I can get you my cabinet in 2 weeks versus those domestic cabinets in 8 weeks. It's like it's very difficult to get the U.S. citizen to work for the wages that they do overseas, and everything's overregulated. Like there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen, but there's some cool stuff. I think if anybody can fix this problem, I mean, Elon, RFK, Vivek, like I listened to a podcast with Vivek. I had no idea he has as many degrees as he had. He was like an Ivy League grad. Like, dude is super smart. And they're building a team of people. What's her face?
Tulsi?
Yes. She's a G.
Yeah.
And like, what an awesome position for her. You know, it's like, and now with what Elon did with Twitter, it's like I've seen more free flow of information than I've ever seen in my life. And it's like the bullshit is getting pulled, like they're getting through the bullshit and they're actually like seeing what's truly happening. And I think that probably played a big part in the election too, is like, now we can actually see what's truly going on.
Well, and also, I mean, he's had his first run at it, right? Like I really think that he's only going to do better than he did in his first term. And not to mention, he dealt with a fucking pandemic for 2 years of that, right? Which was crazy.
He said, I think it was a Lex Friedman, it was one of the podcasts that Trump did where he was like, I came in and I had 10,000 meetings right out like the very first day. He was like, I'm not a politician. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. I was like, there was no training program to go through before becoming president. He was like, you just go up the escalator and bam. Now I've got 10,000 meetings and all of these things and national security and all of like, you know, and he was like, but now he knows how it works now. And I agree with you. I think that it'll be even better this go around. And I think hopefully based on like how voting went this last go around, people are pissed, you know, and that's all. I just want everybody to come together and work toward like some sort of reasonable solution to where like police are taken care of and we don't have to like, nobody feels the obligation to conceal carry, you know, 24/7 to keep their family safe when they go to the grocery store.
Agreed, man.
You know, so, but I hope for all of that. And I think it'll be good. I think, you know, if any team can crack this problem, I think these guys can. And because they actually brought in a bunch of non-politicians that are incredibly bright.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how it all pans out, man.
Yeah.
I get excited and then it's like you get the letdown, you know.
Train wreck.
That's just politics. It always is. It's all these
like
empty promises.
Hanging out with me.
No, dude. No, you're cool.
I do. I'm like, I don't know, man. It's not looking good.
Right.
All the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to
get stoked.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to go either way because there have been points where I was like, Jesus Christ, like, where are we going to go? I mean, you could curate your feed well enough to where we're going into nuclear war and like Ukraine's flying drones into shit. And
you can get any information you want. All you got to do is fucking Google it, dude. You can get any answer you want nowadays. Like, I think that's part of the problem too. So
it's, you can get anything. And I mean, the algorithms are still.
Everybody's got an opinion, you know, and me included. I got a podcast. I'm voicing my opinion right now, but like, yeah, I just think I'm just hopeful that, like you said, that maybe a majority of the country is looking at stuff from a common sense standpoint and not a political value or an ideology or I only subscribe to this because this is what my side believes in. Yeah,
my side.
Yeah.
It's like blue or red. It's like, I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. And I never took a stance on politics. Like I never was involved. Really, I didn't pay any attention to it until the tariffs. And that was where it was like, it forced me to pay attention because all of a sudden I went, you know, cut my margins and like to smithereens over that whole situation. So I had to pay attention. And then it just got worse with COVID and it got worse and worse and worse the more polarized things got. But like, I'm not Republican or Democrat. Like I was pissed because I put like independent or undeclared or whatever on my voting registration. And they sent me Republican ballots. And I was like, hey, like why, like what is happening? Like, I mean, I didn't assign myself to a party. I should get an equal, like I shouldn't get a separate set of ballots based on and I don't know, I could be completely wrong, but I saw like it just wasn't, I feel like it said.
The system is just fucking screwed when it comes to voting, man. It's like
big time. And
my ballot was totally lost this year.
Oh, really?
Like lost in the mail.
See, and
I had to call them. I had to do like all the shit that I went through, the post office, all that sort of stuff. And then finally, I got another one sent to me, but it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Well, what happened to the original?
Yeah. Where did it go?
Who the fuck's got that?
Where did it end up?
If you mailed it to me, where is it?
Yeah. Right.
Nobody can answer me.
And that's crazy. And I don't know why it's such a big problem to like everybody was so pissed about voter ID. It's like, you need an ID to do anything. And it's like, you can get just an ID. Like, it's not difficult to get just an ID. You don't have to get a driver's license. Like, you can get just an ID.
Dude, I just did it for my 84-year-old grandfather the other day because his driver's license, he's not driving anymore. His driver's license was expired. So I had to make an appointment for him at the DMV. It was on Christmas Eve, actually.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I drove him down there. Literally, it took like 15 minutes with the appointment. We went over, said some lady, hey, who are you? Is your address changed? No. They took his photo, handed him a piece of paper. Yeah, we went and got a hamburger.
2 weeks and like it comes in the mail, right? Does it still come? Yeah. So it's like easy money. And then you can go vote. You can do whatever.
Well, even they give you a piece of paper when you walk out of there you can use as an ID.
Okay. Yeah. So like, it's.
I just think that you would want people to have that so you know who's voting.
That
you would.
Right?
That's the common sense thing, right?
Mind blown again.
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit, like simple logic.
I think that you shouldn't be mailing ballots. I think you should physically have to go and pick one up and show your ID. And then when you return it, you should have to show your ID and turn in your ballot.
Yes.
This would eliminate all this bullshit.
All of it. Completely.
Voter fraud, everything.
Easily taken care of.
Yeah.
I think it's in their interest to keep everybody arguing over this because they give you like these very simple, common sense things that with easy solutions that you can sit here and tear each other's hair out about, arguing about.
Yeah.
And you're like, but this is fucking obvious. The
but
the bathroom
obvious.
issues, all of this stuff.
Who the hell could live in this world though without an ID? Like you go to the bank, you drive, buy nicotine, whatever, right? Like,
but they keep you arguing over all this stuff, and then meanwhile they're like, "Okay, yeah, we're just gonna pass this fucking bill."
Yeah.
My God. And then offshore all this money, and people are getting away with all kinds of shit because we're all sitting here scrapping over like, I don't want a kid in my
tinfoil hat,
bathroom,
but that's what I think is going on with this drone thing. It's like, what is going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, same thing.
Well, you saw what they cut that bill down to. Yeah. Like, that was exactly it. It's like, okay, hey, you're not going to slide in $1 million for these guys and $1 billion for these. Like, this 5,000-page bill should only be, a 16th of the size. Just don't slip in a bunch of extra shady bullshit.
Right.
That gave me a little bit of hope, in that regard. It's tough,
it's
man.
Wild times, man. We'll see what 2025 brings.
It's going to be exciting.
Chris, it's been awesome, man. We got to wrap this up.
Yeah, no, you're good, bro.
We've been crushing it. But real quick, before we jump off, anything you want to plug? Anything you got coming up? If I needed kitchen cabinets, where do I get them from?
DenverCabinetExpress.com.
There you go.
That would be sweet,
Boom.
bro. I'd appreciate it. That's me and my designer. She's a gem. Yeah, I'm grateful every day for her, and she will take good care of you. And I'm there on every email with her. And and that's it. I would say probably Parker's Platoon. Why not?
Yeah,
they're
definitely
awesome. And
love those people.
And Landau Performance, big part of everything. And then
those guys.
high altitude martial arts, like they've taken me in, and I'm grateful for everybody there, and that's
cool. Let's get
it.
you a fight. Let's get you back in here sooner than a year and a half next time.
Hopefully after beating somebody up.
Yeah, dude. Let's do it. Or come in. We'll plug the fight. We'll sell some tickets for you, or some shit, right?
Man,
so you don't have to buy 39 tickets.
My man. Thank you for sure.
But let's go, dude. Keep us in touch. And thanks for being the last podcast of the year, man. I appreciate you coming up.
I'm so grateful that you reached out. I'm glad we could make it work. This is sweet. I love being here, and you guys are awesome.
Yeah, dude. It won't be the last time. So let's go.
Let's
Into
go,
2025. Bro. Here we go. Jeremy, thank you. Thanks for the stellar year.
Thanks, guys.
You're the fucking man.
Happy New Year.
Take us away.
Yep.
See ya. Thanks for listening to the Mountainside Podcast. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please take a moment, follow, like, subscribe, or rate on whatever platform you catch the Mountainside Podcast at. If you'd like some more information on upcoming episodes, safety tips, access to all of our affiliates, and all the badass discounts that we get here at the Mountainside Podcast, check out themountainsidepodcast.com.